the usage of the dollar around the world, and that some of the dollar-based stablecoins end up being scams or problematic, and that creates very nasty ripple effects much more widely for dollar assets.
That being said, of course, Gillian reminds us that the crypto world does have a great deal to offer.
And so my view on digital assets is that both the extreme evangelist optimists and the Cassandra critics are wrong, in that essentially digital assets are not going to radically transform the world tomorrow. They're not the answer to all our problems at all. But does that mean that the whole of the digital assets universe is ridiculous and a scam? I would argue not.
Now we return to our question. Is Trump building a crypto economy? Cryptocurrencies are not new. Indeed, Bitcoin was launched over a decade ago. But they haven't been accepted as part of the financial sector until now. Lack of regulation has led to some high-profile disasters. But now, in a renewed push to get ahead of the digital curve, it seems logical that countries should re-evaluate whether the crypto world does indeed have something to offer. In the last year, both Europe and America have introduced regulation, and investment in the sector has boomed. The concern is that crypto will develop into another bubble. In the meantime, there are those who have already been in a position to ride the latest money-making wave. And top of that list is the family of President Donald Trump. This inquiry was presented by me, Tanya Beckett, produced by Ben Henderson and Matt Toulson, researched by Evie Yabsley, edited by Tom Bigwood, and the technical producer was Nikki Edwards.
That was The Inquiry from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho here on CBC Radio 1. Have a great day.
Good morning, everyone. Hello, Winnipeg, and good morning, Manitoba, I should say. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at Information Radio. Thanks for joining us. It is Wednesday morning, 3 minutes to 6 a.m., and live from our CBC studios downtown. You're on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app, or you might be watching on YouTube. It is 6 degrees in Winnipeg this morning. It's mostly cloudy. Looking around the province briefly, Brandon, you're mostly cloudy and 1 degree. And then over in Thompson, it is mainly clear this morning, and it's 0. Winnipeg for the day, a high of 12 with cloud cover, mainly cloudy in Brandon, and your high 11. And in Thompson today, you'll get some sunshine, and your high is 6. So you're plugged into the weather. Let's say hello to the team. Corey Funk's here directing the show and covering the commute. Abby Adiyemi's here, our senior tech. He covers weather on the air. And Mr. Darren Marash is rounding it out. He's behind the controls of YouTube producing our stream today. All right, let's go to Heather Wells. She is also here in our newsroom live with our headlines to start this morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, an early morning fire has closed Sherbrooke Street. Police say fire in a 2-story house started around 4 this morning. No one's been hurt, but firefighters are still on the scene, and Sherbrooke is closed in both directions between Elgin and Alexander. Nisitchewayesik Cree Nation is in a state of emergency without heat or electricity since Sunday. A snowstorm knocked power out to the remote community, home to about 3,000 on-reserve members. Deputy Chief Marcel Moody says they weren't prepared for such a long outage. And Canada Post's rotating strikes are hitting part of Manitoba. Postal workers in Dauphin Swan River are on the picket line today. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thanks very much, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, due to the power outages, we also understand that there's some trouble up in Snow Lake. We might try to reach out to that community on the show today, see how things are going. Also on the program this morning, not enough bums and seats on Sunday. That's one of the problems facing a church in Fort Rouge. So they've had to up the ante to fundraise, and one of the ways they've done that is by having more pierogi dinners. We're going to hear more about what have been their challenges and also some of their doughy solutions. Also this morning on the program, we're going to be talking about the role of women in Christianity. That's in the spotlight as the top job in the Anglican Church was recently awarded to a woman. I should say given to a woman. We're going to talk about that in our faith column, so that's coming up a little bit later. And much more. But right now, let's turn our attention to World Report at 6.
Today on Q.
Before she was starring in comedies like Bridesmaids, the actor Rose Byrne was known for more dramatic roles, and her new movie is sort of a return to that. She plays a mom navigating her daughter's mystery illness.
I'm supposed to know how to fix this. I'm supposed to know how to fix her.
Rose will be here to tell you about it and share some great stories about the late Heath Ledger.
Q with Tom Power this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. We begin this morning in Newfoundland and Labrador. People there are waking up to a new political landscape. Voters have elected a majority progressive conservative government, and Tony Wakeham is the new premier designate. The result came down to the wire, and the margin of victory was less than 1 percentage point. But it is enough to bring an end to a decade of Liberal rule. The CBC's Brett Ruskin has more from St. John's.
Tony Wakeham is leader of Newfoundland and Labrador's Progressive Conservatives. It was exactly 2 years ago that he got that job. Now he has another. Wakeham is now Newfoundland and Labrador's premier designate and will form the next provincial government.
Pollsters and pundits were saying it was going to be another Liberal majority. But we knew, all of us.
This ends 10 years of Liberal wins, with provincial Liberal leader John Hogan winning his seat but losing his status as premier.
The people of Newfoundland and Labrador have spoken, and we will always respect their choice. And in the coming days, I'll meet with the Lieutenant Governor and Mr. Wakeham to ensure a smooth government transition.
Throughout this campaign, the Progressive Conservatives promised to help families balance their own books before balancing the government's finances. They made promises to invest in healthcare, policing, and mental health support, all while committing to cut taxes. One big question now emerges: what happens with the multi-billion-dollar hydroelectric power deal with the province of Quebec? The Liberals had signed a framework memorandum of understanding, but the PCs said they'd put any final agreement up for a province-wide referendum. That means Newfoundlanders and Labradorians could once again be heading to polling stations soon. Brett Ruskin, CBC News, St. John's.
The Israeli military says one of the 8 bodies handed over by Hamas is not one of the hostages held in Gaza. Hamas needs to return all the remains of all 28 hostages. Officials say the Rafah crossing into Gaza will be closed to humanitarian aid until Hamas releases all the bodies. Hundreds of aid trucks line up at the border between Gaza and Egypt. The border is reopening only to permit the movement of people from Gaza, including those needing urgent medical care. Meanwhile, relatives of freed hostages are joining the call for the return of all the remains. Liran Berman's 2 brothers were part of Monday's exchange.
But even in this moment of joy, we cannot forget those still waiting, families who are still living, and the 24 hostages who have not yet come. Now we must bring everyone back. That is the only way this story can truly end.
There are reports Hamas will return 4 more bodies today. Ukraine is still waiting on Canada's help to fight on the front lines. More than 24 refurbished light armored vehicles were promised to Ukraine more than 2 years ago. The restoration project could be worth up to $250 million, but the project is no longer listed on a federal export registry. The CBC's Murray Brewster has more.
An old light armored vehicle, the workhorse of the Canadian Army, rebuilt and repurposed. At least that was the plan. In late 2023, the Defence Department delivered 25 of its decommissioned labs to Armatech Survivability near London, with the promise of refurbishing them for donation to Ukraine alongside newly built vehicles. 2 years later, no rebuilt labs, and it appears no more contract. The deal is no longer listed on the Canadian Commercial Corporation's quarterly disclosure report. Both the corporation and D&D refuse to say what the status of the contract might be.
It makes no sense why they walked away from a promise to deliver a minimum of 25 refurbished labs to help Ukraine protect their soldiers.
James Bazan is the Conservative defence critic who is puzzled by the controversy. All the more so because of Prime Minister Mark Carney's pledge to boost Canadian defence industry production and innovation.
It flies in the face of the promises that have been made by the Liberals to support Ukraine. It flies in the face of Mark Carney's promise to use the defense industry to rebuild and strengthen Canada's economy.
This deal is covered by a federal non-disclosure agreement, which partly explains the commercial corporation and DND's refusal to discuss it. Bottom line, though, Ukraine is still waiting for what was promised. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
The president of Unifor says Canadian auto jobs are being sacrificed on the Trump altar. Lana Payne made the comments after Stellantis announced it is expanding its auto operations in the U.S. That means the production of the Jeep Compass will be leaving Ontario. The union is calling on Ottawa to protect the jobs of some 3,000 workers at the facility in Brampton. That's where the model's made. Stellantis says it is part of a $13 billion investment for its U.S. operations. The CBC's Janice McGregor joins me now from Ottawa. And Janice, this is exactly what people were worried about when Donald Trump's tariffs took effect.
That's right, Marcia. It might be a disappointment, but it's not a surprise. Donald Trump put a target on Canadian plants, and now one assembly line for one vehicle, at least, is heading south. Final assembly plants are so prized by politicians because they anchor a community's economy, employing not just the workers on the line, but all of the service industries that grow up around them and the suppliers that benefit from the logistics and the economies of scale when a facility is close by. But this might not be the end of the story for Stellantis in Brampton. The statements issued last night may be the beginning of a negotiation in public for more government incentives. 2 years ago, remember, Stellantis paused construction of its electric vehicle battery plant in Windsor, threatening to pull the plug unless federal and provincial governments stepped up with more public money to support production at that facility. And the governments eventually did. In his statement last night, Prime Minister Mark Carney said the federal government's working with Stellantis to develop the right measures to protect its employees and create new opportunities in and around Brampton, saying Stellantis has to fulfill the undertakings it made to local workers. The mayor of Brampton, Patrick Brown, called this move disheartening, but he also called for a coordinated national strategy that includes stronger federal supports for the industry, making Canada a viable and attractive destination for long-term investment.
So what can Canadian politicians do about this?
Well, Carney made a direct link last night between Donald Trump's tariff wars and this news. But recent aggressions from the Trump administration suggest it is not going to be easy to reach a truce when it comes to the automotive industry. Ontario Premier Doug Ford yesterday, though, continued to call on all levels of government to fight back.
We're going to survive. We're going to become more creative and come up with new ideas. And that's what we're going to do. But the auto sector has been here for 100 years, and it will always be here.
The political dilemma, though, for the Prime Minister is this. We are heading into an austerity budget. Are billions in incentives for Stellantis or any other car company really a smart investment? But if Ottawa doesn't step up, can the economy pivot to employ workers elsewhere? If the federal government does step up in a big way for Ontario's automotive industry again, resentment could build in other parts of Canada that don't see their critical industries getting similar attention, risking a fresh round of regional grievances and national unity threats.
Thanks, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. A new ad from Ontario's government is hoping to reach U.S. consumers.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs.
That is the voice of former U.S. President Ronald Reagan. It's part of a radio address on tariffs that he gave back in 1987. Now it's part of a $75 million campaign to stress the effects of tariffs on U.S. households.
But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer.
This commercial will be rolling out on U.S. networks this week. It was commissioned by Ontario Premier Doug Ford's office. Ford says Reagan is his favorite American president, and he says he hopes the message hits home for Republicans in particular. Ford says tariffs will end up hurting all Americans. The ad airs until the end of January. The northeastern BC city of Dawson Creek has declared a state of emergency over its water supply. This Kiskatinaw River is the city's only source of water. It is at a record low after 4 straight years of drought. The river provides drinking water for 15,000 people in the city and surrounding area. The city says declaring an emergency allows it to tap into a temporary water source as it works to protect essential services heading into winter. And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, everyone. It is 6:10 a.m. on 89.3 FM, 990 a.m. on that app and YouTube. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Thanks for joining us here on CBC. 6 degrees in Winnipeg. If you got some work to do outside, I highly suggest you get started now if you're in southern Manitoba and here in the city, because we got rain coming. Probably not till tonight, but then I think we're going to have a couple days where it's going to be pretty wet. This hour on the show, crescent-shaped dumplings filled with potato and cheese. There's nothing like a good pierogi on a cold, wet day. But could pierogies be the key to helping build a close-knit community and helping also fundraise for a local church? We're going to have that conversation and hear about one of the churches that is putting on a lot of pierogi suppers to try to help their bottom line. Also this hour on the show, although aid has not been allowed into Gaza at all levels promised under the ceasefire, it has started to increase. We are going to have a conversation with Human Concern International. They'll join us to talk about what they've been able to accomplish. That's on the heels of a local interview we had with Mennonite Central Committee last week from here in Manitoba, as they said they have trucks ready to go in as well. And then just briefly, I want to mention our medical column because Dr. Bardwaj is on today just before 7 o'clock. Today he's looking at a new study that looks at a connection between shift work, so you might be listening, maybe you're just getting off a night shift, and kidney stones. So super interesting. Dr. Bardwaj will be here this hour. Right now, though, Heather Wells is here to update other news stories, and she has our headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, an early morning fire has closed Sherbrooke Street. Police say fire in a 2-story house started around 4 o'clock this morning. No one was hurt, but firefighters are still on the scene. Sherbrooke is closed in both directions between Elgin and Alexander, and police expect the closure will be in place for the next couple of hours. After some lean years, the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra is enjoying a bit of breathing room. The WSO reports an operating surplus of more than $140,000 in the 2024-25 fiscal year. It's the first surplus since the COVID-19 pandemic took a huge bite out of ticket sales at the WSO. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Good news, obviously, for the WSO. I know also MTC was in last week, and they said they're also seeing the rebound starting after COVID, of course. I know it's been 5 years, but how that affected, all of our communities, but certainly the art scene in Winnipeg was significant. So good to hear. We're actually going to have more on that in the next hour as well. So it's 7:40. The executive director of the WSO is going to join us in studio. Right now, let's dip into this weather forecast I alluded to. Abby Adiyami's got your details.
Yeah, good morning, Marcy. We're looking at lots of sunshine for the northern part of the province today, while the reverse would be the case for the down south regions. We're going to see mostly cloudy conditions, and those clouds will be hanging around most of the day. Then we'll see some rain in most of the regions later tonight. So it's going to be towards the night and overnight period. That's when that rain will be coming our way. But right now we're seeing temperatures between 1 and 6 in the southern part of the province, and up north it's kind of cooler. We're just seeing temperatures hover around that 0 for the north. Right now Winnipeg 6 degrees, mainly cloudy. The high reaches 12 today, and that chance of showers will definitely be coming our way overnight, and we'll see temperatures drop to about 8 degrees. But right now it's 6 and cloudy.
Finally, my plants started to look sad yesterday. Yeah, from the overnight the night before, they started just go. Bleh.
I had one spider plant that I've been keeping for long, but it looks like it needs some attention. I just need to trim the edges.
Yeah. Is it inside though?
It's an inside plant.
Yeah, the spider plants. These are my outdoor plants. They were hanging on, fighting the good fight. It's over now, I think. All right, thanks, Abby.
You're welcome.
Corey Funk's here with our commute.
Yes, so of course we'll be keeping an eye on Sherbrooke this morning between Elgin and Alexander, closed both ways because of that fire, as Heather just mentioned as well. No highways closed in northern Manitoba this morning, but still Manitoba 511 says poor conditions on 391. That's the highway between Thompson and Lynn Lake. Still partly snow covered in parts. So just heads up there if you are hitting the highways up north this morning. Might still not be ideal out there. I would love to get some updates of what you're seeing out there. If you're up north, down south, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, when it comes to bringing people together, nothing does a trick like a good meal. One Winnipeg church is hoping that's the case next Friday. With fewer people coming to church on Sundays, the Holy Family Ukrainian Catholic Church over on Grant in the Fort Rouge neighborhood needs a way to fundraise for its needs. So they started, years ago, their pierogi supper. But it started initially as a way to raise money. It's now becoming a tool to strengthen community. Up early and in studio, Ned Durkach is with us. He's with the church as well, and he's here to tell us more about it. Good morning.
Good morning.
So when did you guys start these pierogi suppers? I've had a fall supper at your church. They're awesome. But when did you start the pierogi ones?
Lordy, the pierogi suppers have been going on for years.
Yeah.
That I can remember.
Yeah. And when you started it, was it always a way to raise money for the church?
It was, yes, but we started very, very primitively.
Okay.
You know, like everything was done by hand, and it was a slow process, and it took a long time.
Yeah.
But as we evolved, it got better and better and more modernized. Right now, we're running into challenges because the elderly are moving in, and we don't have as many pinchers as we'd like to have.
Got it. Okay. So you have a couple things going on. So modernized in terms of equipment to do some of the dough and such, but you still need those hands to pinch the pierogies.
Exactly.
Got it.
That's the big part.
So when you say the elderly are, a lot of the people in the church that would have been doing that would have been your elderly population?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so are they just not able to do it anymore, some of them?
That's right. That's what's happening. As they age, and it makes it more difficult for them to do the pinching.
Yeah.
And they just don't have the same energy.
Yeah.
You know?
So are you short of volunteers or short of, what are your needs then to keep this rolling?
Probably the pinchers is where the real challenge is.
Yeah.
And because we do it in the daytime, a lot of people are at work yet who might be able to help can't come out because they're working.
Yeah. Are you looking for people that are from your congregation, or do you open this kind of to the community looking for a hand with this?
Pretty well from our congregation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How hopeful are you that you're going to be able to find people then to...
Well, we're looking at alternative means, and that is maybe we can have pierogi pinching one evening.
Got it.
And those who can come out, so it might make the load a little bit easier for the pinching part.
How many pierogi suppers do you have now at the church?
We run every month. We run the last Friday of every month right through till April.
Really?
Because then we get into the summertime, people are at the cottage and lake and so forth.
A lot of places have fall suppers for just this reason, to raise money and
Right.
build community. Have you guys been every month for quite some time?
We haven't had a fall supper.
Got it. So has it always been every month at your church?
Yes.
Yeah. How many people come out to your pierogi dinners on average?
The September one, it was a full house. In fact, it was so good that we had to close the doors.
Oh, boy. So I don't know what a full house is. Is it like it's hundreds of people or?
Yeah, I'd say, well, because they keep moving, in and out, probably 200-300 people came that Friday night.
Got it. Is that unusual for you guys?
Not unusual. We don't usually sell out, but this was definitely a very prosperous evening.
Do you have any idea how many pierogies you go through?
We did 300 pounds of potatoes.
Wow.
So pierogies.
Yeah. How many does that make? Do a lot of math. I'm curious how many extra hands you need then. You know what I mean? If you need more people to pinch, you need 5 more people would help you out. And if you don't get them, what are you going to do?
Which just means those that are there have to work longer.
Wow.
That's all that. boils down to.
Part of this, obviously, is what I alluded to. There's fewer people in church. What's the challenge with that? Tell me a little bit about your sense of why fewer people are coming to church.
Well, I guess two factors came into play. One was COVID. Of course, people just stopped coming. And as a result of it, we started televising or on YouTube the liturgies. And, it was a benefit for those who couldn't come to church, but it also had a detrimental effect because some people said, well, I'll just watch it on TV and I'll sit and I'll have my coffee. And as a result, we don't have as many parishioners as we did before COVID.
How do you have a sense of, is that number like half, or is it like, I don't know, maybe a quarter of the congregation down in person? Or
probably about a quarter. I don't have the figures with me, but I'd say maybe a quarter down right now.
So that connects to the beginning of our conversation, because that's probably the people that may be staying home watching on YouTube,
right?
That would have been helping with the supper. Yeah. Why do you think the suppers are so popular? I mean, that's a lot of people. You said you had to close the doors,
Well, the pierogies are so good. That's why they're so popular.
So how do you prepare for an event like this? If you're doing this, on Fridays, how much does it take? It's not just the pinching. You've got to, I guess, peel the potatoes, right?
Sunday, the congregation comes down and we do the peeling. Monday morning, along with myself and several others, we come and we boil the potatoes and we mash them and we set them to cool. And on Wednesday, we take Tuesday off, and Wednesday we come and we take the potatoes out and we make potato balls and we do the pinching.
So today's the big day for you guys, Wednesday.
Except we don't do it till next week.
Oh, yeah, a week Wednesday.
That's
and next week is your supper. How much money does an average dinner then give back to the church?
It all depends on what kind of a turnout we have. Probably, and I don't have the figures because I don't deal with that part.
Yeah,
I'd say maybe 2,000-3,000.
Okay, but I mean, it's a significant
definitely
benefit to the church.
It allows us to contribute to a lot of different places.
Is it enough to supplement the loss of having parishioners in seat that might be donating on Sunday, for example?
No, not really.
Okay.
Not really.
So are you guys, how concerned are you about that, the financial aspect of this too?
Well, we are concerned because expenses are going up all the time, and we're looking for ways to increase the amount of money that we can raise for the church.
Yeah.
And with pierogi suppers, that was a major fundraiser for the church.
So make your pitch before you go, Ned, if someone's listening and they can help out with some of this pinching or they have some time. Because we said that this is also about building community and kinship. So what's it like when you're part of that group that's, doing the pinching and cooking?
It's a social thing. The first pierogi supper we had, or pinching, after COVID, you should have been there. It was like everybody was so excited to see everybody else, and the conversation and the noise level was way high. So I would have to tell you that it's a social thing. It really is. It's work, but it's enjoyable because you're socializing with everybody at that point.
Yeah. Well, good luck with your efforts and your pierogies next Friday. Thank you for being here today.
And don't forget to come and join us.
Oh, I've been there before. It won't take much for me to come and join you. Winnipegger Ned Durkash has been in studio with us this morning with Holy Family Ukrainian Catholic Church. This is out on Grant, and they need some help. So you can contact the church or reach out to them if you are able to help them with preparing for their pierogi supper. And if you're going to eat, it is next Friday.
If it happened today, find out today. That's the power of having the news in your hand. Get late-breaking news from reporters across the country, straight to your mobile device. Customize your experience with news from your region and what matters to you. Whether it's big headlines, detailed articles, live events, or on-demand video, CBC News has got you covered. Connect to the world. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca.
Well, let's connect to the world right now. More trucks are being allowed into Gaza since the ceasefire. Under the agreement, 600 trucks are supposed to get into Gaza every day. Those are levels last seen in March. So far, though, Israel's allowing 300, and the crucial Rafah border crossing remains closed. As the situation continues to be urgent, the Red Cross is calling for all border crossings to be opened. And to talk about their efforts to get help to the region in Gaza, Mahmoud Khan is with us, CEO of Human Concern International. They're a Canadian relief organization that's been working in Gaza for several decades, in fact. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Marcy. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm really curious how you're doing with your efforts. Last week, we had Mennonite Central Committee on the show here locally. They have trucks lined up and said it's kind of complicated getting things in. So what have your efforts been like trying to get into Gaza since the ceasefire?
Well, even prior to the ceasefire, and even now, prior to the ceasefire, we've been able to procure items like food, hygiene kits within Gaza and been distributing it. We've also been sending trucks from Jerusalem, from our warehouse there with our partner, where again, food, hygiene kits, baby formula, baby diaper, flour. We've been sending those in. Internally, obviously, there's a lot of medical aids. We're supporting many hospitals there. We have our own primary health clinic and maternity clinic. But since the ceasefire, in our experience so far in the past couple, that it hasn't changed much. It's not moving as quickly. We need to still have more entry points, faster. Trucks are lined up, but it's not getting in fast compared to the dire need that there is in Gaza.
We heard that from MCC last week as well, that on the ground it's more complicated. I think we cover the story and think it's open. It's not. What are your priorities in this stage of providing aid?
So obviously, before the ceasefire, actually, when we knew that this was happening, that we started having meetings right away, and immediately, as part of the need assessment and what we're seeing happening after the ceasefire, it will continue to be the emergency relief. So for the next 2 to 6 months, we can't even think about or discuss long-term, obviously, work. So aside from all the items that I mentioned, food, water, hygiene kits, it will also be prioritizing the winter needs. So we're looking into procuring heavy amount of winter clothing, especially for the young children, and obviously tents and shelter. Many displaced families who are in the move to southern Gaza is now starting to move back to their home to see the condition of their home. And we're hearing from many families the reality is very devastating. They went and they're seeing their homes demolished into rubbles. So there are 55 million tons of rubbles that needs to be cleaned up. Meanwhile, there's no place to stay, so people need tents and shelter for the winter as well.
Got it. How long before do you think you can move to another phase beyond basic life saving?
So as of now, we're looking at the next 6 months is going to be continue to be emergency relief. After that, obviously, meanwhile, of course, we're going to be looking into debris and cleaning up and helping the families reunite, move back, have a shelter. Hoping after 6 months, we could start coordinating and have an organized, coordinated in partnership with all the humanitarian organizations coming together, because rebuilding is going to be very difficult. Majority of Gaza is under rubble right now. School, home, hospital, university, everything needs to be rebuilt.
Are there safety concerns? Or I should say, of course there are. Well, what are the safety concerns for your staff working there on the ground?
Absolutely. I mean, there was always safety concern, either it's for the humanitarian aids or aid worker being targeted when we're doing distribution. Right now, there's massive displacement happening again as people are trying to move back. So coordinating aids with this heavy traffic, human traffic, is also very risky. And not to mention the rubbles. There are millions of tons of rubbles. We don't know what's underneath it. Are there anything that's unexplosive that will explode? So there's definitely ongoing risk and safety concerns for our team there.
And when you do get beyond that 6 months and you're looking at those longer term goals to help people, what will you be doing to address the most immediate needs? I understand that you have families that are, displaced that you'll be working to get back into Gaza as well.
Absolutely. That would be one of our priority, because I was in Egypt just last week and I was meeting with a lot of the Gaza evacuee families who were evacuated, children who were evacuated with one a female guardian for medical treatment, and there are hundreds in Jordan, Egypt, Turkey that we're also serving. And I was talking to some of the mothers there who were telling me they're in Egypt or Jordan, Turkey with their young kids getting medical treatment, while other young kids from the mother as young as 8 or 10 years old haven't talked to for 4 months, some even 10 months. They don't know where they are. So we'll definitely be prioritizing moving these families back to Gaza and hopefully reunite with their children, young children, and other family members.
Thank you very much for telling us about your ongoing work. Appreciate having you on the program today.
Thank you so much, Marcy.
That is Mahmouda Khan, the CEO of Human Concern International, with an update on their efforts in Gaza. It is right now coming up to news time at 6:30. I can tell you we're going to hear more about this in the news, but as far as traffic goes, Sherbrooke, there's been an early fire that's closed Sherbrooke between Elgin and Alexander in both ways. Also up north, Highway 391 is open between Thompson and Lynn Lake, but you could still come across some challenging conditions because of that snowfall. Of course, the storm a couple of days out now, so be careful. But if you do need to pass on any traffic news urgently, please call us at 788-3093. That's your traffic line. You can pass it along to Corey. Still ahead on business news this morning, a decision by Stellantis yesterday is underlining how seriously tariffs are affecting Canadian workers. So we're going to get the very latest by Hallie Cotton, who will join us with business news this morning. Also, Ontario's premier dusting off an old speech of former U.S. President Ronald Reagan trying to move the needle on tariffs. So Hallie's digging into that with some audio as well. So we'll hear a bit of that too. That's after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is 6 degrees. You'll feel a bit of a difference today. Maybe not quite the chill we had yesterday. It's going to be cloudy and warmer, a high this afternoon of 12. Nisitchewasset Cree Nation is in a state of emergency without heat or electricity since Sunday. A snowstorm knocked out power to that remote northern community, home to about 3,000 on-reserve members. Deputy Chief Marcel Moody says community members weren't prepared for such a long outage, and now he says they're struggling to buy essentials like food.
Everything's shut down. I mean, people don't have access to food. There's no restaurants in Nelson House. Even if they had restaurants in Nelson House, they have no power. So our plan is to look at, installing generators in public places like the personal care home, our multi-plus our community buildings.
Moody says they are working to secure more generators. About 60 elders have been bused to hotels in Thompson. Hydro's outage map currently estimates power should be restored by about 8 tonight. Winnipeg police are warning people to be careful when meeting up with strangers to buy or sell anything through online sites. A man was shot and robbed over the weekend while meeting up with someone through an online sales platform. Police say his injuries are life-altering. CBC asked Winnipeggers what safety measures they take when they try to make or save a buck online. Here is Carly Grenier.
When I'm picking up, I just usually tell someone where I'm going, or I have someone on the phone if I'm by myself, or I bring someone with me. I don't tell people my address until the day or a few hours before pickup. Don't e-transfer. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Police encourage buyers and sellers to use the police-designated buy and sell exchange zones located at 4 police stations around the city. An early morning fire has closed Sherbrooke Street. Police say fire in a 2-story house started around 4 this morning. No one's been hurt, but firefighters are still on the scene. Sherbrooke is closed in both directions between Elgin and Alexander. Police expect the closure to be in place for the next hour or so. The federal government has increased the number of newcomers to Manitoba under the provincial nominee program. Ottawa cut back on the number of skilled workers this province could bring into Canada this year. Manitoba was only allotted 4,800 people under the nominee program. It was part of an effort to reduce pressure on Canada's housing stock. The federal government later relented, allowing Manitoba to bring in an additional 1,500 workers. Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera says Manitoba needs that additional labor.
We are not all the same. We do need a unique approach, a tailored approach, and our Minister of Immigration has been doing a great job advocating and working with Canada to prioritize Manitoba's voice in this conversation.
Asseguera says some of the skilled workers now coming to this province will work in healthcare. A Winnipeg man has been handed a 4-month sentence for threatening a Crown lawyer. Richard Dupuis told the prosecutor he was going to, quote, effing smack her during a bail hearing in June. He pleaded guilty to several charges last week, including intimidation of a justice system participant. In a statement read in court, the prosecutor says public officials need to feel safe. Dupuis apologized for the incident. A judge told him those threats cannot be tolerated, adding his sentence needs to denounce that sort of behavior. Israel says the Rafah crossing into Gaza will remain closed to humanitarian aid until Hamas releases all deceased hostages. Hundreds of aid trucks lined up at the border between Gaza and Egypt, barred from entering the beleaguered territory. The border is reopening only to permit the movement of Gazans, including those needing urgent medical care abroad. You can hear the latest on the situation in the Middle East coming up on World Report at 7. Canada Post's rotating strikes are hitting Manitoba. Postal workers in Dauphin Swan River this morning are on the picket line. After years of uncertainty, the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra is turning a financial corner. It has reported an operating surplus of more than $140,000 for the 2024-25 fiscal year. It's the first surplus since the COVID-19 pandemic took a huge bite out of ticket sales. Executive Director Angela Birdsell says sales were up 30% this year over the previous year, reaching 81% of pre-pandemic levels as well.
The combination of audiences coming back, donors stepping up in a big way, and government partners as well, including the Manitoba Arts Council, I should add, have all just been very positive for us in terms of our recovery.
Birdsell says the orchestra has also promoted a variety of experiences to attract audiences, including kids' concerts and night at the movies performances. You can find the latest news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, I want to mention right now where our community studio is going to be tomorrow morning, because we hope you can join us. We're going to be at 1895 Grant. That's pretty much Grant at Kenaston, the strip mall there. We're at Stella's. So thanks to Stella's for having us there. And we are there because we're going to need to be popping in and out to Kenaston. Tomorrow, that's the topic of our show, the widening of Kenaston. The city has said, as we've been reporting at CBC, shovels are going to be in the ground. This is going to start in 2027. The city has been saying that they're going to be widening Kenaston, though, for some 20 years, maybe goes back even longer. We've been digging through the archives for the research on that to just look at how long this is going to be going on. So we have quite a show lined up tomorrow. The mayor will be joining us for our monthly interview, and obviously it will be focused on the Kenaston and what's happening there. But also we're going to be hearing from residents, from commuters, from people who say it's about time, please get this going, I need this, and from others who are saying, isn't there another way, and how does this fit into our spirit of active transportation? Not to mention the residents that live right there, some of them who have been living under the cloud of a possible expropriation of their homes, so the land can be used for this project for years. So stay tuned, I should say tune in tomorrow to our show live from Stella's on Grant. If you want to join us, please do. So make a date with your radio and maybe come and have some coffee with us tomorrow morning at Stella's on Grant. All right, let's get into what's happening today in our regional forecast with Abby.
Good morning, Marcia. It's going to be another cool one, mostly cloudy across the southern part of the province and a chance of showers later in the evening into the overnight period. Winnipeg right now, 6 degrees, cloudy outside. Expect those clouds to stick around for most of the day. A high will be near 12 degrees and light winds will keep things a bit calm for the rest of the day. We'll look at conditions in the Pembina Valley region from Morden, Winkler, Alton and Morris all the way down to the U.S. border. We're looking at 4 degrees right now. Some fog patches spotted there, so if you're under 75, watch out for wildlife and take it easy. We'll see temperatures warm to about 10 degrees today. Also, a good chance of showers overnight for that part of the province. Out west towards Brandon, we're looking at 3 degrees at the moment under clear skies. Expect more clouds through the day. We'll see temperatures roughly get to about 11 degrees degrees later. Also, overnight, we're going to see a good chance of showers for that part of the province. One in Dauphin right now, in the morning it's clear. It's going to give way to a mix of sun and clouds. The high will reach 8 degrees, and tonight we'll see some cloudy conditions and a slim chance of showers also rolling by. In Gimli, it's about 4 degrees at this time. We're expecting a mix of sun and clouds for that part of the province. High would reach 12 degrees later. Overnight brings mostly cloudy skies and that slim chance of showers in the forecast also for that part of the province. Now, tracking conditions into the northern part of the province, we're seeing temperatures starting near zero and should warm towards 7 for most parts of that region. Sunny skies we will see around the power flim from right now. We're looking at temperatures hover between -1 and 0. Largely clear skies. The afternoon should warm up to about 6 degrees. Thompson is currently at -1. Also clear conditions there, warming up to 6. And then Churchill and the York region, we're looking at cloudy conditions at 0 this time. The high should reach about 6, and we'll see the winds from the west easing later. Mostly cloudy overnights in that part of the province, but the north will be enjoying lots of sunshine today. Winnipeg, we are at 6 and cloudy.
You know, I'm having one of those mornings where I'm sort of foggy. I don't know if it's the weather or what, Abby. But
I think it's the weather.
Corey and I were talking about this. I made my coffee, and then I went to a coffee place, and I bought coffee. So now I have all kinds of coffee because I forgot I made my coffee.
Oh.
Yeah.
And I'm just losing my phone like 3-4 times a day lately.
Are you?
It's just everywhere. I put it down, and then because I also am chasing babies around and
yeah.
toddlers.
Well, you
and
have that going on.
And then I'm like, wait, what's going on? At least I haven't lost my baby yet. I definitely can keep track of her. But she's starting to walk, so it's only a matter of time. Yeah.
Good news, Sicky.
And there was, I plugged in my phone, but I didn't connect it to the socket.
Oh, and then it's still dead.
So
That's the worst.
I thought I turned it off to charge it, so it's just like staring at me.
Yeah, I came to work once in slippers.
I remember that day.
Yeah, and then I'm like, why do my feet feel? Oh, yeah, didn't put on shoes. Oh, fall, turning to winter. Okay, let's get into actually what's happening. We'll reiterate some of the traffic things that were in the news, Corey.
Yes, so Sherbrooke between Elgin and Alexander closed both ways. There was a fire in the area, so they have that closed. Should be probably closed for much of the morning, but should open up later in the day. Also, up north, no closed highways this morning is the good news, but still not ideal conditions according to Manitoba 511, particularly 391 between Thompson and Lynn Lake. Still some covered highway conditions, says 511. So heads up there, might be slushy, it might be gross. If you see anything else going on out there, give me a call. We'd love to get an update of what you're seeing if you are driving any of those highways in the province. 204-788-3093.
All right, and later you're going to try to call Snow Lake, I think we were talking about, right?
That's right, yeah. I'm going to reach out and get in touch to see what's going on up there.
Okay, that's because of the power outages, by the way, that you heard about in the news. So that community we just want to find out more about. There was a post on their Facebook page last night late that suggested, this came around 10 o'clock, it says, according to the RM, the town, that they are looking at possibly 10 o'clock this morning, noon today, for a power restoration, but that's from Manitoba Hydro through the town. So we'll find out more about that. Right now, it's time to turn our attention on 89.3 FM to CBC Business News, and that means that Hallie Cotnam is with us via Zoom. Hi.
Hi, good morning, Marcy.
So let's just start with this decision by Stellantis yesterday. It's underlining how seriously tariffs are affecting Canadian workers.
Yeah, Stellantis said it's going to invest $13 billion in the U.S. to bring 5 new vehicles to market and create 5,000 jobs in the Midwest. Now, this is the automaker behind Chrysler and Jeep. Turns out the new Jeep Compass was supposed to be assembled at the company's plant in Brampton, Ontario, which employs 3,000 workers. In fact, the plant has been shut down since early 2024 while it retooled for just that purpose. Brampton's Mayor Patrick Brown calling the decision to ship those jobs to a plant in Illinois deeply disappointing. But some industry analysts in the U.S. say it's not so surprising. Just last week, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said that Trump's goal is to end vehicle assembly in Canada and move those jobs south. Meanwhile, those increased lumber duties that kicked in yesterday have politicians on both sides of the country speaking out. Here's BC's Premier David Eby and New Brunswick's Premier Susan Holt.
The industry is at a tipping point. This industry that contributes so much to Canada's GDP is facing an existential threat through tariffs that are profoundly unfair.
This has broad provincial economic implications, and it's going to hurt our economy tremendously.
I want to bring one other voice to this story. Brian Menzies heads up the Independent Wood Processors Association of BC.
We heard the words, aluminum, steel, automotive.
we're all waiting for the word softwood lumber to come out. We didn't hear anything. And we got scared. Like, it's not just frustration, it's fear that we're going to be left aside again.
So, Marcia, I'm juxtaposing these two sectors on purpose. Both under fire from U.S. tariffs. EB is asking for more help from the federal government to support laid-off forestry workers. Unifor, which represents Canadian automotive workers, says saving that Brampton plant should be Canada's top priority. Prime Minister Mark Carney released a statement last night saying the government's working to protect the Brampton employees and create new opportunities for them.
And continuing on that vein, it feels like the 1980s, Ontario's premiers dusted off an old speech of former U.S. President Ronald Reagan to try and move the needle on tariffs.
Yeah, Premier Doug Ford saying Ontario is going to spend $75 million to broadcast anti-tariff ads in the U.S. The ads use part of a radio address that Reagan made back in 1987, in which he argues that tariffs don't work in the long run. Ford says he's confident that Republicans, at least those of a certain age, will identify with this voice.
High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs.
So in the TV ad, Reagan's voice is layered over a tension track. It's paired with images of workers and families. The hope is that message is going to reach Republican eyes and ears. It'll begin airing this week on Newsmax and Bloomberg, and then next week it'll start airing on Fox News and the other mainstream networks and affiliates.
And just last briefly, a new pilot project in PEI is using electronic collars on cows to boost potato yields. How?
Well, the idea is to control where the cow patties end up. So this will allow the farmer to get that homegrown fertilizer where it's needed to improve the soil, to lead to better crops. So the electronic collars create a kind of a virtual fence that encourages the cows to hang out in a certain part of the field. And every few days, the parameters are changed so that the cows move into a new grazing area.
Tell us more about how it works.
Well, when a cow approaches this virtual fence line, the collar emits a tone, an audible warning, and most cows turn back. But if a cow keeps going, the collars deliver a brief and mild shock. I want to emphasize that, brief and mild. The farmers who are part of the pilot say the voltage is less than electric fencing. The collars cost a few $100s each, but there's partial funding for it coming from Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada.
All right, well, interesting method. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thanks, Marcy.
More business news tomorrow. She joins us every morning at this time on the show. That's Hallie Conham. Good morning, everyone. Hopefully your Wednesday is going fine. I got Thursday on my mind because we're on location tomorrow. But today we're in our studios in downtown Winnipeg under a cloudy sky where it is 6 degrees. Thanks for being with us. New music. Let's experience it together. I haven't heard this one. This is from Winnipeg, Darling Begonia. And this tune's called Deep Red Cherry Night.
It seems like red cherry night. I want to be like you. I'm I feel it every night. I wanna be like you.
All I see red clouds, your red mouth, and stained kitchen tiles. My life in you. Turn the key around to the sounds I'm unbound. You're picking out the seeds and peeling the fruit. And it feels like a deep red cherry night. I wanna be alive with you. Bitterness aside, we wait till it's almost ripe. I wanna be alive with you. Passenger seat, handfuls blushing sweet, making shapes in the wind. Your eyes on the highway bend. As As the sun goes down, colors fly, bits spit out. We drive till we feel like we're home again. Our home is a tree growing round you and me. Arms outstretched, it's hard this season. Hair like strawberry, the look of you has come to be my open window, and I welcome the breeze in. And it feels like a deep red cherry night. I wanna be alive with you. Bitterness aside, we wait till it's almost right. I wanna be alive with you.
It feels like that cherry night. I wanna be alive with you. I'm dancing. It feels like that cherry night. I wanna be alive with you.
And it feels like a deep red cherry night. I wanna be alive with you. All bitterness aside, can't wait till it's almost ripe. I wanna be alive with you.
Pretty, right? That's Begonia. Her new tune is Deep Red Cherry Night off the new album Fantasy Life. It is slated for release October 24th. And this month earlier, she posted on Facebook about this tune, saying that it's a song about simple love, Begonia writes, about all the beautiful, mundane, and magical moments that I started to notice when I finally found someone I could rest my trust in, she wrote on Facebook. As mentioned, the new album drops October 24th.
There are many people who bring success, innovation, accomplishment, and charity to our community. We'd like you to help us meet some of the best. CBC Future 40 will honor 10 Manitobans under 40 making a difference. Help us discover the inspiring people in our province by nominating a shining star in your community today. For details, visit cbc.ca/future40mb.
Well, time right now is 10 to 7. And hey, shift workers, if you're just getting off shift now, maybe, do you have kidney stones? Why am I asking? Well, there's a new study published this month. It links shift work to a bigger chance of developing kidney stones. That's on our medical column today with Dr. Raj Bhardwaj. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy.
So I suppose before we get into this new data, what can you remind us what kidney stones are exactly and why they happen in our bodies?
Yeah, they are literally little stones, little crystals that form in your kidneys from the salts and other minerals in your urine. So over the years, these tiny crystals can grow larger as more calcium or other chemicals kind of glom onto them. And they're relatively common. About 1 in 5 men will end up with kidney stones by the time they're 70 years old. And it's about 1 in 10 women will develop them. So if the stone just sits in your kidney, doesn't usually cause a lot of symptoms, but if it gets dislodged, then it starts flowing out of the kidney on its way to the outside world, right? On its way to being peed out, kind of like a log floating down a river. And just like a log in a river, if the river gets narrow or if the log is big enough, it gets stuck. So in this case, the kidney stones typically get hung up on the walls of the tube that goes from the kidney to the bladder. That's usually the narrowest part of your urinary tract. And if that happens, you certainly will get symptoms. And the big symptom is pain, often to the point where it causes vomiting. And, almost always only on one side of your belly or your back, the side where the kidney stone is, whether it's in your left kidney or your right kidney. There can also be blood in your urine, sometimes a little, sometimes a lot. That comes from the pokey crystal digging into the inner lining of your urinary tract tube, and then that causes bleeding. You can also have this feeling like you constantly need to pee, even though you just went to the bathroom. And if you're lucky, if the stone is small enough, usually smaller than about 4 or 5 millimeters, then you'll probably be able to pee it out. But if it's bigger than that, then you're probably going to need some help.
What causes kidney stones to form in the first place?
Yeah, so there's a lot of risk factors that we know about. Some are more obvious than others. So there's medical conditions that are related to stone formation. So things like gout, things like diabetes, where you might get high levels of sugar in your urine, and then that sugar can promote the formation of stones. There are risk factors that are dietary, so not drinking enough water to prevent crystals from forming in the first place. That's a big one. And then there are dietary things like, depending on what your stone ends up being made of, we can kind of go back and say, oh, okay. So, because sometimes there are calcium stones. So if you're taking calcium supplements, for example, then that can lead to a big rush of calcium into your system. Sometimes your body can't deal with that, so it tries to pee a bunch of the calcium out. But if you're constantly needing to pee out a bunch of calcium, sometimes that can promote the formation of calcium stones. There are also these things called oxalate stones. Oxalates come from your diet in things like spinach and rhubarb and stuff like that. So if you're a really big rhubarb eater, maybe that can increase your risk of stones. So there's a bunch of risk factors.
Let's talk about this latest research then. What specifically do the researchers find out about kidney stones and shift work?
Yeah, so the researchers used a big database of health information called the UK Biobank, and they looked at the records of over 226,000 people over almost 14 years. And in that 14 years, about 2,900 people in that database reported developing kidney stones. And so the researchers said, okay, what's different about these 2,900 people versus the ones who didn't form kidney stones? And they found a lot of different things. So, they found that people who worked shift work had a higher risk of developing kidney stones, especially if they were less than 50 years old, and especially if their work was more sedentary rather than sort of manual labor type stuff. The risk wasn't huge. It wasn't like, shift work doubles your risk. It wasn't that. It increases it by about 20%. The biggest difference was people who worked nights. That was about 22% higher risk, and evenings was about 15% higher risk. So researchers noticed, though, when they looked at the sort of the survey results, right, that if you reported working shifts like evenings and nights, you're more likely to also have a higher rate of smoking, having worse sleep, being a little bit less physically active, tending to be a little bit more overweight, and drinking less water than people who don't work evenings and nights. So if you think of it this way, sort of working evenings and nights doesn't just disrupt your normal body clock rhythms that regulate water balance and body chemistry. It also tends to nudge people into habits that also make it more likely to form kidney stones. And then the other sort of real pragmatic thing is that when you're working night shifts, a lot of times, you're the only one there, and there's not a lot of coverage. So if you need to get up and go to the bathroom, it's really hard sometimes because you're the only one, right? So if you're delaying going to the bathroom, then that makes your kidneys work harder. That can lead to more kidney stones forming as well.
What did researchers or doctors say or suggest about lowering your overall risk for kidney stones then?
Yeah, so these researchers, they said, well, it would be lovely if we had workplace policies to encourage more water intake, more allowance of bathroom breaks, promote more physical activity on night shifts, things like that. Policies like that would probably be the most effective strategy on a population level. But I mean, try to get Amazon or the police service or the health authority to put policies in for their shift workers. That's going to be tough. So I think you have to build good habits for yourself, right? So first of all, drink more water. We know that night shift workers tend to drink less water overall than people who work regular hours. And then second thing is make time to go pee. Even to the point of setting an alarm to remind yourself to get up and go and, have a little sign or something saying back in 2 minutes or whatever it takes. And then another thing you could do is try to be more active, whether that's both on shift or when you're off shift. And, let's be real, this is hard, especially for people who are working 10 or 12-hour shifts. They're usually busy enough just trying to keep their lives running in the little time when there's overlap between when they're awake and when the banks are open and the rest of the world is awake, right? But trying to build some activity into your life can be helpful, whether you're on shift or off shift. And then one other thing, if you do end up with a kidney stone, don't just flush it. Get your doctor to send it to the lab so that we can tell what chemicals it's made out of, because that can inform specific diet changes for you to help prevent another stone in the future.
All right, Dr. Bardwaj, thank you.
My pleasure.
That's our medical column with Dr. Raj Bardwaj. It is 3 minutes to 7 o'clock. It is Wednesday morning, October 15th, middle of the month already. Let's go to Heather Wells. She's here with our news headlines.
Good morning. Nisitchewayasik Cree Nation is in a state of emergency. They have been without heat or electricity since Sunday when a snowstorm knocked power out to that remote community. Deputy Chief Marcel Moody says they weren't prepared for such a long outage. A warning from Winnipeg police to be extra cautious when meeting up with strangers through online sales platforms. A man was shot and robbed over the weekend in an online sale gone wrong. He suffered life-altering injuries. Officers are still looking for the shooter, but they want shoppers and sellers to know you can go to 4 police stations for a safe place where you can exchange items for money. We'll hear more coming up in our next local news at 7:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
Still ahead, as you've been hearing in the news, after lean years, the WSO has turned a financial corner. We will find out more about that. We have a full interview in the next hour. Also, the top job in the Anglican Church was recently filled by a woman. On our faith column, we'll look at the implication of that. And could you do it? Recently, Mayor Scott Gillingham had to use his naloxone training to help a Winnipegger who was overdosing outside City Hall. We're going to walk through what you should do should you be in that situation in Winnipeg. So stay tuned. That's all still ahead on the show. Right now, it's 6 degrees in Winnipeg. It is cloudy right now. Our high is going to be 12. And we've got a 40% chance of showers overnight, but for most of the day, cloudy before it gets rainy on the back end here. Sherbrooke, early fires you've been hearing closed both ways between Elgin and Alexander, so that's likely still a challenge through that area. And if you're driving on Highway 391 between Thompson and Lynn Lake, it's open, but you still could be coming across some snowy conditions. So take it easy out there and call the commuter line if you need. 788-3093, 1 minute to 7.
Today on The Current.
So Jody was diagnosed when she was 2 years and 10 months.
Autism numbers have been climbing in part because of an expanded definition of what the diagnosis means. But one expert wants to see autism split into 2 different categories based on severity and says that would help her own daughter. That's coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland. And on the CBC Listen app.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. Hamas is expected to return the remains of 4 more hostages to Israel today. 8 other bodies have already been returned, but this morning, Israel's military says one is not a hostage. Under the terms of the ceasefire, Hamas is supposed to release the bodies of all 28 hostages. Israel says it is restricting the flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza until they're all returned. Briar Stewart has more from Jerusalem.
Aid trucks moved towards the Rafah crossing between Egypt and Gaza, but Israeli officials say they will not be allowed into the strip and that the border will only reopen to permit the movement of Gazans. This includes people in urgent need of medical care abroad. As part of the ceasefire agreement, 600 trucks are supposed to be allowed in every day, but Israel announced that it was going to curtail aid in an attempt to put pressure on Hamas to return more of the remains of the deceased hostages.
And now we are here and waiting.
Ella Haimi's husband Hal was killed on October 7th and his body taken back to Gaza.
I have hopes for my country and my government that they will press Hamas with the help.
Under the deal, for every body of an Israeli hostage that's returned, Israel will return the bodies of 15 Gazans. In Gaza, Tess Ingram with UNICEF says while aid hasn't been flooding in, the ceasefire means that they are able to distribute the supplies they do have more widely.
We really do continue to urge the Israeli authorities to keep the crossings open and to open all available crossings because the stakes are really high. As I said.
She says there's still a great deal of uncertainty about whether the ceasefire will hold. There's also internal tension. Hamas has been fighting with local gangs and carrying out public executions. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Jerusalem.
The province of Newfoundland and Labrador has a new premier designate this morning. Progressive Conservative leader Tony Wakeham won a majority government. The win breaks nearly a decade of Liberal rule in the province. Wakeham says he's here to represent everyone.
If you didn't vote PC, that's okay too, because we're also going to work hard for you. Because it doesn't matter to me if you are blue or red or orange. At the end of the day, all of us are Newfoundlanders and Labradorians first.
Liberal leader John Hogan has been ousted as premier, but he did secure his seat in the Windsor Lake riding. Hogan says the people have spoken, and he hopes to ensure a smooth government transition. An Ontario coroner's inquest begins today into the deaths of 5 people in 2021. They died in a remote northern First Nation during an outbreak of a fungal illness called blastomycosis. As the CBC's Kate Rutherford reports, the source of that outbreak is still a mystery.
They diagnosed him for pneumonia. He wasn't doing well the night before he passed away.
Arthur Moore says his son, 43-year-old Luke, was the first of 5 people from Constance Lake First Nation to die during an outbreak of a fungal disease.
So many people died. And why does it have to come to this?
An autopsy identified the cause as blastomycosis. It's caused by breathing in spores from damp soil and rotting wood and is naturally occurring. Symptoms are similar to pneumonia, but treatment is different. The chief during the outbreak, Ramona Sutherland, says dozens of people were sickened. People were afraid to go outside, she says, or even worried the spores were in their basements. Now, people are again stressed.
There's a lot of anxiety, intimidation, because we don't really know what the inquest, how it's going to be held or what it actually means.
Chastity Finlayson-Moore is ready for the inquest, remembering the loss of her cousin Luke. She hopes to find out where the blastomycosis came from.
There hasn't been any cases since. I mean, sure, there's still a fear that maybe there's blastomycosis and you never know when it can arise again.
Investigators took more than 350 soil samples, but Indigenous Services Canada says the source remains a mystery. The inquest is set to run for 25 days, and recommendations may be made to prevent a similar situation. Kate Rutherford, CBC News, Sudbury.
An extradition hearing in Scotland begins next week for 3 men accused in the death of an Ontario restaurant owner in 2023. Sharif Rahman died following a dispute over an unpaid bill at his Owen Sound eatery. And a CBC News investigation is uncovering new information about his alleged killers. The CBC's Jonathan Gatehouse has the details.
He was such a nice man.
Richard Thomas stands by a memorial tree in Owen Sound, fondly remembering Sharif Rahman. The restaurant owner was killed in the summer of 2023 as he tried to stop 3 men from dining and dashing on a $150 bill.
This is a story that touched people all over Canada because many small communities are just like Owen Sound, and we look after one another.
It was a big mystery for the small southwestern Ontario city, with police saying nothing about the case until more than a year later.
We can now state that 3 individuals, all citizens of the United Kingdom, have been arrested and charged with criminal code offences.
Robert Evans is charged with manslaughter, while his father and uncle have been charged as accessories after the fact. CBC News gained exclusive access to Scottish court records. The files show Evans and his father entered Canada on falsified UK passports, saying they were visitors, but instead spending that summer running a cash-only paving business. Police allege that Evans threw the punch that killed Rahman. He left the country the next day. A full extradition hearing is expected to begin next week, a process that could well drag on, says immigration lawyer Richard Kurland.
Extradition from another country is a legal minefield, and that's the result of diplomacy, transnational law, local constitutional law, and the legal maneuvers by local counsel in that country.
Meaning that any Canadian trial may still be months away. Jonathan Gatehouse, CBC News, Owen Sound, Ontario.
Striking support staff at Ontario colleges have a tentative deal with the province. More than 10,000 workers, including librarians and technology support staff, went on strike 5 weeks ago. The workers are represented by the Ontario Public Services Employees Union. It says it expects those workers to be back on the job tomorrow. The war in Ukraine is topping the agenda at NATO's summit in Brussels. Defense ministers say they are concerned about an escalation in airspace violations. Many are being blamed on Russia, and Ukraine says it is in desperate need of more weapons to fend off Moscow's attacks. The CBC's Julia Chapman is following today's meeting.
After the ceasefire in Gaza, U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth says he hopes Donald Trump can achieve peace in Ukraine.
If there's anything we've learned under President Trump, is the active application of peace through strength.
Hegseth praised the alliance for increasing military spending, a long-time concern of Donald Trump's. A new initiative sees NATO members, including Canada, buying weapons for Ukraine from U.S. stockpiles. NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte says he believes more countries will take part.
This is crucial stuff, including air defense systems and particularly interceptors, important for Ukraine to make sure that their civilian population, their crucial infrastructure is as much protected as possible.
But tracking by Germany's Kiel Institute found that military aid to Ukraine fell sharply over the summer. What Kyiv wants most of all is Tomahawk cruise missiles. Trump will meet Volodymyr Zelensky in Washington on Friday. He suggested that he may agree to send Tomahawks.
I know what he has to say. He wants weapons. He would like to have Tomahawks. Everyone else wants Tomahawks. We have a lot of Tomahawks.
NATO is also looking at its own security. Recent drone incursions into its airspace, some blamed on Russia, have highlighted gaps in air defences. Ministers will be discussing EU plans for a so-called drone wall, as well as other action to bolster security on the eastern flank. Julia Chapman, CBC News, London.
Kenya's former Prime Minister Raila Odinga has died. People grieving in the streets of Nairobi as Kenyans learn of his death. Odinga was a polarizing figure for decades. He ran successfully for the presidency 5 times. With each loss, he claimed the elections had been stolen from him. In 2007, that claim led to the biggest crisis in Kenya's history. More than 1,200 people died in post-election violence. Raila Odinga died of an apparent heart attack today. He was 80 years old. And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. If you like the World Report podcast, please follow us and tell a friend. It helps spread the word. I'm Marcia Young.
Well, hello. Here we are in the middle of the month. Thanks for joining us on CBC's Morning Show. This is Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. Crisp out there. Going to be not bad today. A 6 degree is right now is our temperature in Winnipeg. Our high today 12. This hour on the program, the role of women in Christianity is in the spotlight. The top job in the Anglican Church was recently filled by a woman for the first time. We're going to look at that with our faith contributor, so stay tuned. Also this hour on the show, after many lean years, the WSO has turned a financial corner, and maybe turned over a different leaf. We're going to hear more about that post-pandemic recovery when the exec joins us in studio. That's coming up at around 7:40 this morning. And then at 10 to 8, you may have heard in the news that recently Mayor Scott Gillingham had to use his naloxone training to help a Winnipegger who was overdosing outside City Hall. Could you do it? We're going to look at that, administering naloxone. So that's coming up just before 8 o'clock. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells. She is here with other news headlines and developing stories. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, a Northern Manitoba First Nation has declared a state of emergency. Nisitchewayesik Cree Nation has been without heat or electricity since this weekend's snowstorm. Deputy Chief Marcel Moody says the power went out early Sunday. He hopes to get help from the federal government and the Canadian Red Cross. An early morning fire has closed Sherbrooke Street. Police say the fire in a 2-story house started about 4 this morning. No one's been hurt, but Sherbrooke is still closed in both directions between Elgin and Alexander. I'll be back with more Manitoba news at 7:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
And Abby to the weather.
Maris, it's going to be another cool one across the province today. We're going to see, we're currently seeing between 0 and -2 in the northern part of the province. Churchill is around -1 now. Thompson, we're looking at -2 there. It's going to warm to about 7 degrees later in the day, and most of the regions up north will be enjoying mainly sunny skies. It's going to be bright but cool as well. And down south, we're seeing clouds that will stick around and a good chance of showers later in the day in a lot of areas down south. For Winnipeg right now, we're still looking at 6 degrees under clear, cloudy conditions. We warmed near 12 degrees today. The skies will stay mostly cloudy. The winds are going to be calm, and then tonight brings the temperatures down to about 8 degrees, and then we'll notice that good chance of showers come our way overnight. Across the province, from the Pembina Valley region through the Westman, the Parkland, and the Interlake region, we're seeing chilly temperatures between 2 and 5 degrees this morning. Some regions spotting fog this morning, and that should clear as we get into the day. For Winnipeg right now, we're looking at 6 degrees, and it's cloudy.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
All right, Corey Funk has popped into the studio. What do you know?
So far, it's been actually a pretty quiet commute overall. Sherbrooke between Elgin and Alexander has been hearing in the news closed both ways due to a fire in the area. That should be just for the morning. But also, if you're up north, highways looking a bit better than yesterday, but still some issues, particularly 391 between Thompson and Lynn Lake. Manitoba 501 says it could be quite slushy there, so might not be ideal conditions for you. But finally, though, Mars, just kind of fun. If you're driving down Portage now and you drive past Portage Place, you could see right through it now. This is a fun little traffic update for you.
What do you
can
mean by
actually
that?
See, well, because part of the plan is that kind of Edmonton, if you're right at the corner of Portage and Edmonton, Portage Place, what they're doing all the kind of reconstruction right now, is that right in the middle of it, you can see actually the clock tower. Like, right, they've opened it up.
Oh.
And you can see right through to the other side, almost like to where it kind
Right
of
through the
leads to
glass,
Ellis. Yeah,
into
right
the
through the
back.
grass. They've just opened it up now as they do the construction. So kind of just a fun update if you're on your commute. If you take a quick look down Portage, you can actually see right through Portage Place. So anyways, if you do want to give me an update on anything else that you're seeing out there, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
This month, Sarah Mullally, formerly the Bishop of London, was elected as the Archbishop of Canterbury, the head of the Anglican Church. You may have heard this in the news. She is the first woman to hold the post since the Church of England was created almost 500 years ago. And to some, this move highlights the changing roles of women in Christian churches. To talk about it this morning is our faith contributor, John Longhurst. Good morning, John.
Good morning.
You haven't been on the airwaves with me since you received the Order of Canada, so I'm going to take a minute here just to publicly congratulate you on all of your work. We've been spoiled with you in Manitoba, writing your faith columns and doing your journalistic work around faith issues for years. But I just thought this was so well received, well deserved. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And here you are to shed light on yet another story that's important. What do you think the appointment of a woman as Archbishop of Canterbury means for Anglicans?
Well, it's a very big deal in England. Since the founding of that church almost 500 years ago, only men have held that position. So you could say she broke what you might call the final stained glass ceiling for Anglicans in that country. Now, many people may not be familiar with the Archbishop of Canterbury. That position is the head of the Church of England. But even saying that, she's not like the Pope in the Roman Catholic Church. She's not anyone with supreme authority over the church like in that denomination. The Anglican Church is more of a collegial body. And each parish and diocese is independent, and it can make its own decisions. She's more like what you would call the chief encourager, the lead pastor, the teacher, the moral voice of the church in England. And it's similar for the worldwide Anglican Communion, which includes Canada. There are 85 million members in that communion in 165 countries. For them, the Archbishop of Canterbury is the spiritual or symbolic head of the church.
What is the history of we know there haven't been the leaders in this position, but what's the history of women like as leaders at any positions in the Anglican Church?
Well, until the middle of the 20th century, it was widely understood in that church, as well as many other churches, that only men could be priests or ministers, leaders of individual congregations, and bishops, which are leaders of dioceses or groups of congregations. This is similar to how other Christian denominations have operated as well. But that started to change for Anglicans and other churches too in the 1970s, and that's when Anglicans in the U.S., New Zealand, and Canada began ordaining women for the first time as priests, a decision that opened the way for them to become bishops as well. Since that time, Anglicans have slowly been opening leadership positions to women. The first woman to be appointed a bishop happened in 1989 in the U.S. In Canada, it happened here in 1993 with Linda Nichols. And in England, it was in 2015. Now, the first time a woman was made the primate, or what is called the head of the National Anglican Church, was in 2006 in the U.S. And that happened in Canada in 2019. And now it's happened in the United Kingdom too. But it's not without controversy.
What's the controversy around it?
Well, for Anglicans and others who oppose women being church leaders, it's because of the way they read the Bible. In particular, they refer to what the Apostle Paul wrote in the book of 1 Timothy. And that's where he said he didn't permit women to, quote, teach or exercise authority over a man. Rather, they are to remain quiet, close quote. So those who oppose women in leadership in the church see this as a literal and timeless truth for all Christians for all time. But many biblical scholars argue that Paul was just referring to a specific situation in a specific church in a specific time. And today, Christians continue to be divided over this issue, and that's what's happening now in England over Mullally's appointment. Some conservative Anglicans in England and in other countries oppose it because they say it goes against the teachings of the Bible. Now, the Anglican Church is not the only church that has this issue in front of it. It's also an issue for Roman Catholics, and women in that church are also pressing for more opportunities to be leaders, including as priests. And one of the groups leading this charge is the Catholic Network for Women's Equality, which is based right here in Canada. It believes that the Roman Catholic Church needs more women involved in decision-making if it is to be truly inclusive and to be the kind of church that makes younger people, especially women, feel welcome.
What about people who are wondering and who say it's controversial on the other side, that it's controversial that it took Anglicans until 2025, our time, to appoint a female head of their church?
Yeah, sure. That's a good point. And it would be easy to be critical of the Anglican Church for taking so long to appoint women to the highest leadership. But they would do well to remember one thing, and that is that of 193 countries in the United Nations, only 13 are governed by women. For G7 countries, there's only one woman as leader, and she's in Italy. As for Fortune 500 companies, just over 50 have women as CEOs. And closer to home, we've only had 11 women premiers of Canadian provinces in 150 years, and we've never elected a woman as prime minister. And in saying that, I'm not trying to excuse Anglicans or any other religious group for not having more women leaders, but I am wanting to remind us that when it comes to women being leaders and in leadership, there's a long way to go in all areas of society.
Thanks for the conversation in the column today, John.
You bet. Thank you.
Trio and Try. They will be in Winnipeg for multiple shows coming up, and then they round it all out in Brandon on the 18th. Well, it's 7:25 a.m., and after using naloxone to save a Winnipegger that was overdosing, the mayor of Winnipeg says more needs to be done to stem the tide of drug overdoses.
As I was walking away from that incident, I was reminded that we have people working in agencies who work with Winnipeg's homeless population and our city's emergency service members who administer naloxone and reverse overdoses every day.
But what do we do when naloxone isn't enough? We're going to have that conversation coming up in this half hour. We're also going to ask whether or not you could do it. If you were faced in that situation, could you administer naloxone? So we're going to talk a little bit about that and how it works. Right now it's 7:25, as mentioned, and it is time for Morning Sports. Scott Regehr joins us. Good morning.
Hey there, Marcy.
So we will talk about the big baseball game tonight for the Jays in a sec. First, though, a stiff challenge for Canada's men's soccer team last night.
Yeah, a friendly played in New Jersey, although given the makeup of the crowd, it probably felt more like Bogota to the players. Swaths of Colombian yellow could be seen throughout the stadium, there to support the country ranked 13th in the world at the moment. All told, Canada gave as good as it got. Pretty entertaining and ultimately scoreless draw against Colombia. It might have been different had Jacob Schaffelberg not been called offside by the narrowest of margins in the second half in an instance where Jonathan David put the ball in the Colombian net. Still, this match, Marcy, exposed once again what should be Canada's major weakness at next summer's World Cup, a lack of goal scoring. Coach Jesse Marsh was asked about that.
Every time we've had a loss, we've been able to deliver on the back end of that. So I think there's a lot of character in the team. There's a lot of belief, right? You can see that with the way they play, with how aggressive they are. This team has goals in them. You know, that I'm not worried about. We have a lot of attacking prowess. We have a lot of talented players in the attacking third. World Cup, it's about not giving goals away. So if we can keep being sound defensively, I know this team can score goals.
I want to believe Jesse Marsh, but after failing to score in this window against either Colombia or Australia, or even to generate many chances, it's tough not to doubt him. Next up for Canada, friendlies in November against Venezuela and Ecuador. Those are both countries ranked by FIFA below Canada and countries Canada has to score against.
Speaking of countries, those who qualified for the World Cup continues to grow.
Yeah. Among those winning berths yesterday in the tournament, England, South Africa, Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. So 28 of the 48 nations have now been determined. Now, where they'll play their matches is, of course, still up in the air. And whether they'll play any matches at all in Boston next summer is another question. U.S. President Donald Trump is threatening to relocate matches set to be played in that city, calling its mayor, Michelle Wu, a radical leftist who's lost control.
I love the people of Boston. I know the games are sold out, but your mayor is not good. If somebody is doing a bad job, and if I feel there's unsafe conditions, I would call Johnny, the head of FIFA, who's phenomenal, and I would say, let's move it to another location.
Earlier this month, Marcy, there were multiple arrests in connection with the pro-Palestinian protests that turned violent on Boston Common. World Cup host sites aren't up to Trump, but contracted with FIFA, which would face significant logistical and legal issues if it decides to make changes now.
Let's finish with baseball. The Jays are, well, frankly, desperate. They got to win tonight in Seattle. What are they saying ahead of Game 3 of the American League Championship Series?
Just to keep the faith after losing those first two games at home, and to remember that they've been behind a lot already this year. No club's had as many comebacks as the Jays in 2025. I think about that series late in the season, Marcy, when they're playing the Red Sox and lost the first two games to Boston. But when it mattered most in trying to clinch their division, they beat the Bo Sox. So Jeff Hoffman's their reliever, and he points to the team's character.
The teams like this one are the ones where you don't really want the season to end. You know, the way Ross and Mark and, everybody kind of built this team. They built it with guys that love to win and want to win and, kind of have those chips on their shoulders and want to get over that hump. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the way that we respond.
Toronto closer Jeff Hoffman. The starter tonight, Shane Bieber. And I hope he acquits himself a little better than he did the last time out. That was at Yankee Stadium, where he was okay. Certainly not dominant, though. And watching this Mariners batting order, They might need a dominant performance tonight. 7:08 Central Time is the first pitch. 5:08 in Seattle, where thousands of Jays fans from around Western Canada are expected to attend.
I'll be watching from Winnipeg. All right. Thank you very much, Scott.
You bet.
Scott Regehr with Morning Sports. Sherbrooke, early fire. Closed both ways between Elgin and Alexander. Highways north could still be snow covered because of the storm aftermath. 788-3093 if you need to update anything. And still ahead, it may be a modest surplus, but it brings a massive sense of relief. The WSO Executive Director is in studio after your CBC Winnipeg News.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 7:30, it is still 6 degrees. You're going to feel the warmth in Winnipeg today. We're above seasonal, a high this afternoon of 12. It will be cloudy throughout the day. A Northern Manitoba First Nation has declared a state of emergency. Nisitchewasik Cree Nation has been without heat or electricity since this weekend's snowstorm. Deputy Chief Marcel Moody says the power went out early Sunday morning and was still out as of last night.
A lot of people in our community don't have any wood stoves. There's no heat in their houses because only one source of heat, that's from the furnaces, and when the power goes off, there's absolutely no alternative, to heat their homes.
Moody says the community hopes to get assistance from the federal government and the Canadian Red Cross. He says people aren't prepared for such an extended outage and are scrambling to get supplies. About 60 elders have been bused to hotels in Thompson. Hydro's outage map estimates power should be restored in Nisitchewasik by about 8 o'clock tonight. A warning from Winnipeg police to be extra cautious when meeting up with strangers through online sales platforms. A man was shot and robbed over the weekend in an online sale gone wrong. He suffered life-altering injuries. Officers are still looking for the shooter. CBC News asked Winnipeggers what safety measures they take when buying or selling through online platforms. Here is Rory Doak.
If I can, I'll take a friend with me, maybe a couple friends, and I'll tend to meet at a neutral location. So if not meeting at my house or someone else's house, but I'll be meeting at like a mall or a well-populated parking lot. I also won't meet with anybody at night, like well-lit areas, middle of the day.
The Winnipeg Police Service suggests using its designated buy and sell exchange zones at 4 police stations around the city. Investigators ask anyone with information on the suspect to contact them or Crime Stoppers. We do have his photo up on our website this morning. An early morning fire has closed Sherbrooke Street. Police say fire in a 2-story house started around 4 this morning. No one has been hurt, but firefighters are still there on the scene. Sherbrooke is closed both ways between Elgin and Alexander, and police expect that closure to be in place for about an hour or so. Mark Carney's Liberal government has changed its mind about cutting back on Manitoba's immigration targets. Earlier this year, Ottawa reduced the number of skilled workers this province could bring in through the provincial nominee program. The number was slashed to under 4,800. The federal government has since allowed Manitoba to bring in another 1,500 workers, bringing the total to more than 6,200. Health Minister Uzoma Asseguera says some of those workers will be in healthcare.
Our workforce, whether it's healthcare or otherwise, benefits from and quite frankly needs internationally educated healthcare workers. These folks are invaluable to the front lines of our healthcare system. They make our healthcare system stronger.
The decision to cut nominee program numbers was part of the federal effort to reduce pressure on housing across the country. Israel says Rafah crossing into Gaza will remain closed to humanitarian aid until Hamas releases all the deceased hostages. Hundreds of aid trucks lined up at the border between Gaza and Egypt, barred from entering the beleaguered territory. The border is reopening only to permit the movement of Gazans, including those needing urgent medical care abroad. Only 8 of 28 deceased hostages have been returned to Israel so far, though Israel's military says one of the 4 released yesterday is not the remains of a hostage. There are reports Hamas will return 4 more bodies today. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. Canada Post's rotating strikes are hitting part of Manitoba today. Postal workers in Dauphin Swan River are on the picket line this morning. And you can find the latest news updated throughout the day. All you have to do is head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Heather Wells live in our news center this morning on this Wednesday, October 15th. Let's dig into your traffic. The traffic line's been pretty quiet this morning. We do know from the news, of course, Sherbrooke between Elgin and Alexander remains closed due to an early morning fire. That's both directions. Also, we know that Highway 391 is reopened. It was closed yesterday up north. That's the highway between Thompson and Lynn Lake. It is open, but use caution because there's some snow-covered and slippery areas still through that zone that got so much of the snow. And we are chasing Snow Lake. I just want to let you know that because you've been hearing about the power outages, state of emergency in Nissachawayasik. And so we're going to find out about Snow Lake and how they're doing as they also await power returning for some people there. So all those things developing. But when it comes to the commute north or the commute here in any of your cities in the south, give us a call if you need to pass something along. You can call Corey at 788-3093. Well, we are on location tomorrow. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. First, though, let's get into our actual weather, our regional forecast with Abby.
Yeah, still that cool there across the province. We're looking at that slight chance of showers tracking our way for the southern part of the province, but for the northern part of the province today, it's going to remain bright and cool. Lots of sunshine from Thompson all the way down to Churchill and surrounding environment. Winnipeg right now still 6 degrees, cloudy outside, warming to 12 today with calm winds. Tonight we'll see some, clouds still linger and a slim chance of showers into the overnight. Morden and nearby the Pembina Valley region, we're looking at 5 degrees at this time, warming up to 10 degrees later. It's going to be mild. Also, temperatures temperatures are warming up to about 10 degrees in that part of the province. Brandon is at 3 degrees, climbing to 11. Clouds in the forecast today. Also showers late in the evening. Some thunderstorms may roll overnight. In the Parkland region, we're looking at 2 degrees in Dauphin, warming to 12, expecting a mix of sun and clouds there. Gimli's at 4 degrees, climbing to 12 degrees later today. DePauw, Flin Flon, Thompson, we're looking at 0 in that part of the province. Some regions seeing -2, some regions seeing -1, but temperatures will definitely be hovering between 6 and 7 degrees. So across board, Marcy, it's going to be more like sun and clouds in the northern part of the province and respecting showers later in the evening for the south. Winnipeg right now, 6 and cloudy.
All right. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Well, tomorrow our community studio will be Stella's on Grant, 1895 Grant in the strip mall there right near Kenaston. And we're there to talk about Kenaston. The widening of Kenaston has been on the books in this city for a long time, decades. Will it finally happen? Well, the city says yes. They say 2027 they're going to start the project. So what does it mean? It means more lanes. It means 2 new spans of bridges. How ready is the city? Is the funding in place? And also, what's the impact? How are you feeling about all of this? So we're going to hear from commuters. We're going to hear from people who live in the area as well immediately there. We're going to hear from some residents that say they moved to Kenaston. They don't fear this. They, in fact, are looking forward to it for some reasons. We'll hear from others who say that it's been like a cloud hanging over their heads because they may lose their homes if their homes get expropriated for the property to widen Kenaston. So lots of points of view about this. It's one of the biggest projects that our city has ever undertaken in terms of construction. So that's tomorrow live. We look at the widening of Kenaston. The mayor of the city of Winnipeg is also on our program, so that is also going to be tomorrow's show live from Stella's. We got an early morning email about this. If you can join us tomorrow, please do. If you want to write in now or you want to call us, 788-3205. Joe Levin wrote in. He said, I heard that tomorrow you're going to be focusing on Kenaston widening. My opinion is it's going to be a huge expenditure that's badly misdirected. Winnipeg has a plan for a citywide network of high-speed busways, but only one was built. Now we hear nothing about that. This is what the city needs, not a huge expenditure on one road that caters to the new suburbs in the south. What happened to reducing greenhouse gases? Busways will do that, not wider roads. So that's Joe Levin weighing in with his opinion this morning. And it's really that simple. It is about where you live and what you think. So let us know, and we'll have a good conversation about it tomorrow, which will also include the mayor of the city of Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcuso. You're listening to CBC's Information Radio this morning on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and on YouTube. Well, up next, it is a sign of artistic resilience after years of uncertainty. It's lovely, isn't it? What we're listening to is the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra. This is one of the rehearsals at the Centennial Concert Hall. But as you've been hearing in the news this morning, the WSO has reached a bit of a financial milestone. This is a good news story. For the first time since the pandemic, it has operating surplus, which is at more than $140,000. It is a modest surplus, but it brings a massive sense of relief. And to talk about that, I'm pleased to say that Andrea Birdsall has made some time for us. She's the executive director for the WSO, and she's in studio with us this morning. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Marcy, for having me.
So how did I characterize that? A modest surplus, but a massive relief. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, when you consider the start of the year, we had a budget gap that was just, well, I want to say astronomical, roughly $1.5 million, close to a budget gap where we had no idea at the beginning of the year how that was going to be met. No idea.
What were the stresses through the year when you think about what it took to even stay afloat, to stay on the stage?
Well, I think because we'd been preparing for a couple of years, we knew it was coming. I think me and my team were all kind of mentally prepared to say, look, like, we're going to do the best we can every single day, but we're not going to lose sleep, because if you lose sleep, then it makes it very hard to function. So we've all learned coping mechanisms to keep ourselves even and grounded during these really scary times.
Yeah, scary is the word. So tell me a little bit about why this happened, why the pandemic was the real start of the hit, right? People just not coming back in seats.
Sure, yeah. Because our first year back in production, I think we were 60% of what our normal audiences would be. And that was pretty much the case across the country. The studies showed that was what it was going to be. The reason why this crisis didn't hit us sooner is that we did have wage and rent subsidies that helped carry us through the first couple of years, but they did run out. So the year prior to last year, we were still at roughly 60% of audiences, but last year we climbed up to, and we're still comparing to pre-pandemic times, we climbed up to 80%. So that gave us hope. But I mean, I think most folks know that arts organizations live on part government, part ticket sales, and part fundraising. And so we needed all three of those roughly equal levels of funding to keep going, or to climb rather. And so we had started our advocacy at the government level a couple of years prior. We'd started communicating very transparently to donors and ticket buyers that we needed them to come back. So all I can say is that every single one of those three streams stepped up to the plate, showed how much they loved the WSO, showed how important they knew that the arts were to community building, bringing people together, to bringing people downtown. And so really, we were so gratified to see that recovery.
When you break down those three areas that you mentioned, more people stepping up to buy tickets, how much was the increase then, year over year?
30% from the previous year.
Okay.
Yep.
And then private donations, you guys had a record year, right?
We had a record year. I mean, the WSO always does very, very well in terms of our individual donations, and that's gratifying because not only do people buy tickets to our concerts and many concerts throughout the year, they also write checks. They'll top up their donations. They might be small amounts or they might be large amounts. So both in the number of donors and the amounts that people gave to the WSO, that was an all-time high, a record high.
I know that you were quite open when you were talking to the Winnipeg Free Press, our journalistic colleagues here, about this. But one of the things that you said is you expressed support for the government support for the mayor and the Manitoba Arts Council. But I wonder what the reality is, do you think? Because I know are retiring as well. You're going to be leaving the WSO. What's the reality of what kind of support and consistent support, support you can, consistent, that you can count on that's, not going to be year in and year out being nervous, would you need to have your organization, maybe all arts organizations, but certainly WSO, feel confident moving forward? What's really needed to support the arts in our community?
That's such an interesting question. I've had the fortune to work federally. I've had the fortune to work in other countries, to see what goes on in other jurisdictions. I mean, there's a couple of things, but overall, I would say the very healthy, vibrant arts organizations have 50 to 60% government funded. And I would say in Canada, it's between 25 and 35% government funded. So it is a huge challenge. It's always been that way. And I've been known to say to my federal colleagues that we need a seismic increase in investment. We need to get people together in community, celebrating what we have in common as opposed to our differences, getting people off their screen and building community through the arts. And we really do need at least a doubling of investment at all three levels of government.
I don't want to pit one against the other, because people have heard me say on the airwaves before that I love everything. I love sports, I love arts, I go to the theater, all kinds of things. However, there's a reality in our community, which is the Jets. And I know that we did stories when the Jets returned, even though it's been a number of years now, talking about that, every family only has a certain amount of dollars to spend on what they're going to do for entertainment. And I know that our arts organizations also at that point saw a bit of a shift too. Is that still a challenge, sort of competing for that dollar when, of course, everything's lean out there for families? Do you lose subscribers, do you think, to the sports scene in the city?
We've certainly lost subscribers, but I'm not sure it's because of the Jets or because of sports. I think it has more to do with the younger generation. They want flexible options. They don't want to commit their time a whole year in advance. So we've seen our single tickets go way up and our subscriptions go way down. I think that's reflective of the demographic. So we're doing things like memberships. So for a monthly membership, you can come to a concert practically for free. And we're seeing some uptake on those more flexible, affordable membership models. But it all goes back to why we need government investment, so that, in some parts of the world, they have a lot of free events for people to enjoy because of the value that they bring to communities and bringing people together. So,
and then the interest is there, and then somebody may, then they're going to buy a single ticket or maybe subscribe.
Right.
Because they've had a taste.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. When the pandemic hit, how long did you envision the recovery would take?
Well, the very first stats out there were 3 to 4 years. And then by 21, 22, Business for the Arts and Nanos Research were saying, it's going to be more like 6 to 10 years for us to recover. And so what are we at? We're roughly at the 5-6 year mark. And we are seeing that recovery, but we've had to really reinvent what we offer and how we offer it. And so it takes time, because arts organizations plan 2 to 3 years in advance. So it takes time for us to shift and pivot and start to appeal to, the new demographic. And they're coming because once they experience it, they get so excited and they want to come back.
On the road to financial recovery, when you guys had the lean years, how much did everyone step up? Even when you think of musicians and I think you guys had a reduced season. There were a lot of things that you went through. I think you even went through staff cuts, maybe.
Yes. We function very, very leanly relative to our sister organizations across the country, orchestras rather. And so when I say everyone stepped up, the musicians stepped up. It was a tough agreement to get across, but people worked very hard. They understood, what they had to do. We're going to build back up over time, so the weeks are going to increase back over time. As I said, the board stepped up with its time and its pocketbook. We function. I don't think we could be any leaner as a staff. We have a lot of unfilled positions, so we just have to keep people going and see that recovery.
Before you leave, what are you most excited about in the upcoming season?
Oh, there's way too much. We have Brawl at the Hall, which is a wrestling match with orchestra. We have a beautiful Oscar Peterson tribute on November 30th. We have Stuart Copeland from the Police, who's coming for a drum kit concerto with the orchestra. There's such a huge variety. Of course, our movies are extremely popular. So that brings families into, a new definition of widescreen and big screen with an orchestra on the stage. It's so exciting. Those things are selling out. So there's a lot to be excited about.
Thank you very much for coming in this morning and telling us about everything.
Thank you, Marcy.
That's Angela Birdsell, the Executive Director for the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra.
CBC Music, live at Massey Hall, the most iconic music venue in Canada. An absolute milestone in the careers of musicians who stand on the historic stage. And you have a front row seat. All right. A new season of episodes now available. Bahamas, The Glorious Sons, The Sadies, Field Guide, Serena Ryder, O.C. Elliott, and Chantal Kreviazek. CBC Music, live at Massey Hall. Watch free on CBC Gem. It's Canada's most prestigious competition for new short fiction. The 2026 CBC Short Story Prize is on. Send in your best original unpublished short fiction. Up for grabs, cash prizes from the Canada Council for the Arts, a 2-week writing residency at the Banff Centre for Arts and Creativity, and your work published on CBC Books. Contest closes November 1st. For rules and more, go to cbcbooks.ca.
Time right now is 11 minutes to 8 o'clock on 89.3. Cloudy and 6 degrees. Today's high is 12, and it's going to stay cloudy. Chance of showers moves in tonight, and then it looks like it's going to be wet the next couple of days, certainly overnight and tomorrow. In traffic, Sherbrooke, between Elgin and Alexander, an early fire has closed that street both ways. 788-3093 if you have any updates that you want to get to us. Call us. Coming up on the program after 8 o'clock on the show today, we are going to be taking a behind-the-scenes look at one Manitoba municipality's quest. They are trying to sell a restaurant there for $1, a loonie, $1. Why are they doing this? We'll find out after 8. Up next on the show, if it can happen to the mayor, it could happen to you too. As you've been hearing in the news, Thursday, Winnipeg's mayor and a security guard helped save a man who was overdosing on Main Street. Mayor Scott Gillingham says that he and his staff were finishing up work. When they looked out the window, they saw a man who was overdosing. Had overdosed. Luckily, members of City Council received naloxone training 2 years ago, so Gillingham knew what to do. Here's a bit of him explaining what happened to CBC's Megan Ketchison.
We gave the individual 5 shots of Narcan nasal spray, and I gave one of the 5, and I also gave a needle of naloxone to the individual. After the event was over, I asked the security guard, and he indicated he's probably had to do this 5 or 6 times over the last, since he's been here for a couple of years now. So it just speaks to the prevalence, I think, of the drug crisis that we have in our city. And as I was walking away from that incident, I was reminded that we have people working in agencies who work with Winnipeg's homeless population and our city's emergency service members who administer naloxone and reverse overdoses every day. And so for too many, people working with the addicted population, this is an everyday occurrence that they're intervening and reversing the effects of overdoses.
Caleb Clay is the administrative manager of Sunshine House's overdose prevention site and in studio with us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
So how often do you administer naloxone?
Well, at the MOP site, it really depends on the day. We can have a very calm, chill day where we thankfully don't have to administer any, or it can be, 3 to 5 is pretty standard for us, 3 to 5 folks a day.
What's the impact of that on people? On your staff, obviously not on the people that are struggling and overdosing, which is a different impact, but what's the impact?
Yeah, we are very fortunate to be in a position where we get to help people every single day. And all of us love our jobs and we love these people so much that we are grateful to do it. But it is difficult. It is a harrowing experience. And, not every overdose is easy enough to reverse with just Narcan. We often have to employ CPR techniques and rescue breathing as well. And that can take a lot out of a person, absolutely.
But as you said, you're saving a life. How concerned are you that the average Winnipegger might not know how to do this?
It is pretty concerning. I know more people now than ever know how to use naloxone, and that's really encouraging. But, folks can overdose in any neighborhood in any part of the city, and the more people who know how to use naloxone, the more lives will be saved.
What do you think the misconceptions are about naloxone and using it?
I think that there's fear of using naloxone, especially as the nasal spray is less and less available. Sticking a needle in somebody is always a strange experience to go into if you're not used to it. And I think people also worry that it will hurt people if they don't need it. But injecting naloxone into somebody, if they're not experiencing an opioid overdose, isn't going to do anything harmful.
What are the signs that someone is overdosing?
So the signs are slowed rate of breathing. That's how you can first tell when folks are breathing very shallowly. You can also look for discoloration around the lips and of the skin, though that's harder to see in people with darker skin tones. So we also use pulse oximeters and things like that to monitor folks. But depressed rate of breathing, if you know somebody's been using and you're seeing them kind of start to nod off as if they're going to sleep, then that can be a sign that they're going into overdose as well.
And can you administer it then? Or are you waiting? Not waiting, but is there a wrong time to do this?
I would say for the average person, if you think somebody is overdosing and if you're able to get their consent, then you can always ask them, even when somebody's rate is slow and they're sort of starting to go down like that. Sometimes you can still talk to them. So you can always ask them if they'd like naloxone, or if you notice somebody's, slumped over on the side of the road, it's better to do it and try than to just leave them there.
How would you describe the drug crisis here in Winnipeg and where we're at?
Well, it's certainly a tough world out there for folks who use drugs. We're seeing more substances that we're not expecting in people's drug supplies than ever. And a lot of those substances have adverse side effects like benzodiazepines or xylazine. These are not things that people are supposed to be ingesting alongside opioids. And it makes for complex overdoses that take more than just Narcan to reverse.
How does that change the way that you respond to overdoses as a result of all of that?
We just have to be more careful, and we have to just know our folks, right? When people are hanging out around the MOPS site, it gives us an opportunity to build relationships with them. And so the more we know about their patterns of use and what they may be buying or expecting to consume, the better we can keep them safe.
Is your training, like for the folks that you work with, have you had to have everybody's, getting more first aid, and have you changed your training because of that? Obviously the depth of the problem?
We make sure that everybody's up to date on their first aid and their CPR. We're starting to introduce oxygen administration with oxygen concentrators as well, because that's a bit of a kinder way to bring somebody back from an overdose. Narcan can be very jarring, and it's a really great tool to use, but because we're experts at this, we've been doing this for almost 2 years now, we are able to kind of put more tools in our toolbox.
What do you do with the oxygen? Just put it on someone's face? Or?
Yeah, as they're still breathing, we ask if they would like some oxygen so that they can potentially avoid using Narcan, and then you either get a mask or cannula and you sit with them for a while and chat, and they breathe easier.
I guess just last, Caleb, what do you think's needed to boost overdose prevention in Manitoba and maybe in Winnipeg? Because Manitoba's a pretty big question, but what about in the city?
In the city, I would recommend people get drug testing. Drug testing is one of the most powerful tools we have because that can tell you what's in your supply. There's a number of organizations around the city that do it. Sunshine House doesn't have the capability right now, but Nine Circles and Street Connections both do, and they have very experienced techs there who can tell you pretty down to a pretty small amount what's in your substances. So that's the biggest tool that we have in our toolbox right now. Better supports around like detox and rehabilitation for people who are ready for that or who want to take that step is always a good thing, and just more awareness. Drugs can be scary and they can be unsafe, but the more everybody knows about them and the more we kind of demystify them, I think the safer people will be overall.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks for the work you do.
Thank you.
That is Caleb Clay, Administrative Manager of Sunshine House's overdose prevention site. If you want to read the story about the mayor and what happened that I mentioned there, you can go to our website at CBC. Let's go to headlines now with Heather Wells.
Good morning. A Northern Manitoba First Nation has declared a state of emergency. Nisichawesik Cree Nation has been without heat or electricity since the weekend snowstorm. The deputy chief there says power went out early Sunday morning, and he hopes to get some help from the federal government and the Canadian Red Cross. Ottawa has changed its mind about cutting back on Manitoba's immigration targets. Earlier this year, Ottawa cut the number of skilled workers this province could bring through. The federal government has now allowed Manitoba to bring in an additional 1,500 workers. We're going to hear from our health minister, who says some of those internationally trained workers will be in healthcare. I'll be back with more Manitoba news at 8:30.
6 degrees, the high today, 12 with a cloudy day ahead. Sherbrooke is closed both ways between Elgin and Alexander. And after 8, we're going to take you north. The mayor of Snow Lake will join us. The power is still out for hundreds in the community there following the snowstorm this weekend. Restoration is constantly being pushed back, so we'll find out where it's at now. And residents there only returned from recently being evacuated due to wildfires, so they're going through a lot. Stay tuned. That's after 8.
Today on Q.
Before she was starring in comedies like Bridesmaids, the actor Rose Byrne was known for more dramatic roles, and her new movie is sort of a return to that. She plays a mom navigating her daughter's mystery illness.
I'm supposed to know how to fix this. I'm supposed to know how to fix her.
Rose will be here to tell you about it and share some great stories about the late Heath Ledger.
Q with Tom Power this morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland, and on the CBC Listen app or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
Autism numbers have been climbing in part because of an expanded definition of what the diagnosis means. But one expert wants to see autism split into two different categories based on severity and says that would help her own daughter. That's coming up on The Current.
This is World Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. We begin in Newfoundland and Labrador, where people are waking up to a new political landscape. Voters have elected a majority progressive conservative government. The result came right down to the wire, and the margin of victory was less than 1 percentage point. But it is enough to bring an end to a decade of Liberal rule. The CBC's Brett Ruskin has more from St. John's.
Tony Wakeham is leader of Newfoundland and Labrador's Progressive Conservatives. It was exactly 2 years ago that he got that job. Now he has another. Wakeham is now Newfoundland and Labrador's premier designate and will form the next provincial government.
Pollsters and pundits were saying it was going to be another Liberal majority. But we knew, all of us.
This ends 10 years of Liberal wins, with provincial Liberal leader John Hogan winning his seat but losing his status as premier.
The people of Newfoundland and Labrador have spoken, and we will always respect their choice. And in the coming days, I'll meet with the Lieutenant Governor and Mr. Wakeham to ensure a smooth government transition.
Throughout this campaign, the Progressive Conservatives promised to help families balance their own books before balancing the government's finances. They made promises to invest in healthcare, policing, and mental health support, all while committing to cut taxes. One big question now emerges: what happens with the multi-billion-dollar hydroelectric power deal with the province of Quebec? The Liberals had signed a framework memorandum of understanding, but the PCs said they'd put any final agreement up for a province-wide referendum. That means Newfoundlanders and Labradorians could once again be heading to polling stations soon. Brett Ruskin, CBC News, St. John's.
The president of Unifor says Canadian auto jobs are being sacrificed on the Trump altar. Lana Payne made the comments after Stellantis announced it is expanding its auto operations in the U.S. That means the production of the Jeep Compass will be leaving Ontario. The union is calling on Ottawa to protect the jobs of some 3,000 workers at the facility in Brampton that makes that model. Stellantis says it's part of a $13 billion investment for its U.S. operations. The CBC's Janice McGregor joins me now from Ottawa. And Janice, this is exactly what people were worried about with Donald Trump's tariffs.
Yes, indeed, Marcia. It's a disappointment, but it's not a surprise. The president of the local auto workers union, Vito Beato, told CBC Radio this morning that this is all about Trump's tariffs.
If they let this go, if they let Stellantis get away with what they're getting away with at the Brampton Assembly Plant, this could snowball into other facilities in other sectors, and we can't let this happen.
In fact, this might just be the beginning of a negotiation in public for more government incentives to save this plant. We saw this 2 years ago when Stellantis paused construction of its electric battery plant in Windsor and held out for more federal and provincial money to keep production in Canada. Governments then eventually dug deep. And in his statement last night, Prime Minister Mark Carney said his government is now working with Stellantis to develop the right measures to protect its employees and create new opportunities in and around Brampton. But Stellantis also has to fulfill the undertakings it made to its workers. Ontario Premier Doug Ford echoed that call this morning and warned that no provincial funding will be given until Ontario receives clear assurances on when the plant will restart operations and meet that commitment. The mayor of Brampton, Patrick Brown, also called for a coordinated national strategy that includes stronger federal supports for this industry.
What are the political risks as the leaders try to figure out what to do next?
Well, for starters, remember, Mark Carney is about to have his government deliver an austerity budget? Are billions in incentives for Stellantis or any other car company really a smart investment right now? Or are there other industries with more secure long-term prospects for Ontario workers and frankly less grief than trying to battle Trump to an automotive truce? If the federal government sides with Ontario's automotive sector again, resentment could build in other parts of Canada that their critical industries don't get similar attention, risking a fresh round of regional grievances and national unity threats instead of fighting together.
Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. The Israeli military says one of the 8 bodies returned by Hamas is not one of the hostages held in Gaza. As part of the peace deal, Hamas must return the remains of 28 hostages. There are reports Hamas will return 4 more today. But Israeli officials say the Rafah crossing into Gaza will be closed to humanitarian aid until Hamas releases all the bodies. Hundreds of aid trucks line up at the border between Gaza and Egypt. The border is reopening only to permit movement of people from Gaza, including those needing urgent medical care. Ukraine is still waiting on a key Canadian pledge of support, military support. More than 24 rebuilt light armored vehicles were promised to Ukraine more than 2 years ago, but it's still not clear when or if that promise will be kept. The CBC's Murray Brewster has more.
An old light armored vehicle, the workhorse of the Canadian Army, rebuilt and repurposed. At least that was the plan. In late 2023, the Defence Department delivered 25 of its decommissioned labs to Armatech Survivability near London, with the promise of refurbishing them for donation to Ukraine alongside newly built vehicles. 2 years later, no rebuilt labs, and it appears no more contract. The deal is no longer listed on the Canadian Commercial Corporation's quarterly disclosure report. Both the corporation and D&D refuse to say what the status of the contract might be.
It makes no sense why they walked away from a promise to deliver a minimum of 25 refurbished labs to help Ukraine protect their soldiers.
James Bazan is the Conservative defense critic who is puzzled by the controversy. All the more so because of Prime Minister Mark Carney's pledge to boost Canadian defense industry production and innovation.
It flies in the face of the promises that have been made by the Liberals to support Ukraine. It flies in the face of Mark Carney's promise to use the defense industry to rebuild and strengthen Canada's economy.
This deal is covered by a federal non-disclosure agreement, which partly explains the commercial corporation and D&D's refusal to discuss it. Bottom line, though, Ukraine is still waiting for what was promised. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
The northeastern BC city of Dawson Creek has declared a state of emergency over its water supply. The Kaskatinaw River is the city's only source of water. It is at a record low after 4 straight years of drought. The river provides drinking water for about 15,000 people in the city and surrounding area. The city says declaring an emergency allows it to tap into a temporary water source as it works to protect essential services heading into winter. ChatGPT is changing the way a lot of people shop, and as OpenAI's popular chatbot enters the e-commerce space, retail giants are lining up to find a new way to get their products into your hands. Jenna Benchitrit has the story.
If you're planning a themed birthday party or tracking down the ingredients for a recipe, you'll soon be able to tell ChatGPT to generate a shopping list, and it will supply one with real products that you can buy with a single click. Walmart, after Etsy and Shopify, is the latest retailer planning to sell through the chatbot.
Here it will allow some shoppers to interact, ask questions, delegate tasks, ask to do some comparisons, to review some pricing.
Maxime Cohen is an AI and retail expert at McGill University. ChatGPT's offering puts it in competition with e-commerce giants like Amazon as more retail companies jump on AI. But he cautions that small businesses could fall by the wayside if some brands are boosted at the expense of others. Shopify president Harley Finkelstein recently said in Toronto that won't be the case. The bot will make suggestions based on what you've already bought.
It's going to have a perfect history of every sneaker you've ever purchased.
Therefore, it's not going to show you, Reebok if you actually are really into Nike or.
But that poses some privacy concerns, says Ritesh Kotak, a cybersecurity analyst in Toronto.
One of the biggest criticisms of this technology is the fact that you're collecting all these pieces of data on individuals. Where is that data actually housed? Who has access to it?
If the company's latest experiment succeeds, ChatGPT could become your personal shopper. You'll just need to teach it to order your groceries every week. Jenna Benchetrit, CBC News, Toronto.
And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. And if you like the World Report podcast, please follow us and tell a friend. It helps spread the word. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Information Radio. I'm Marcy Marcusa. We're live in our CBC studios downtown on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and YouTube. Cloudy today. Rain coming later. Well, this half hour on the program, have you ever wanted to own your own business? You might want to go to Swan Valley. You can buy one up for just $1. We'll find out why they're selling what was a thriving restaurant for just $1. And we'll find out more about the challenges and the concerns, but also the hopes and the needs in Swan Valley West. So stay tuned for that. Also, we will be talking about a community up north. So 700 kilometers north of Winnipeg, you'll find Snow Lake. And there this morning, you'll find people without power. So we're going to talk to the mayor of Snow Lake about what is happening due to that recent snowstorm. There were power outages. When is that going to be restored? It's been a bit of a moving target. So what's the latest this morning? We'll find out. So that's coming up. Let's go to news headlines next. Speaking of that and other stories. Good morning, Heather.
Good morning. Yes, and it's not just Snow Lake. Nisichawesik Cree Nation is in a state of emergency. They've been without heat or electricity since Sunday, also because of that snowstorm. The deputy chief there, Marcel Moody, says they weren't prepared for such a long outage. So we'll hear from him coming up. And a warning from Winnipeg police to be extra cautious when meeting up with strangers through online sales platforms. A man was shot and robbed over the weekend in an online sale gone wrong. He suffered life-altering injuries. Police suggest using its designated buy and sell exchange zones at 4 police stations around the city. More stories coming up at 8:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
Into the weather we go with Abby.
We're going to be seeing mostly cloudy skies in the southern part of the province. Lots of sunshine forecast for the north with slight chance of showers later in the evening for the southern regions. Winnipeg right now, we're looking at 6 degrees, cloudy outside, warming to 12, calm winds. Then that chance of showers will be coming our way later tonight into the overnight period. Brandon, currently, we're seeing misty conditions at 3 degrees there, and some fog patches will be developing later, warming up to 11. But right now, Winnipeg, we are at around 6 degrees.
Sorry, Abby, I'm jumping over you.
No worries.
Okay, I'm doing that to get to Corey. What's up, Corey?
Yes, just keep an eye out if you're on Sherbrooke between Elgin and Alexander. Closed both ways. It's been the case all morning due to a fire. That may be the case for the morning, but should be cleared up by the afternoon. As well, up north, no closed highways this morning after that snowstorm over the weekend. But still, Manitoba 511 says Highway 391 between Thompson and Lynn Lake, parts of it are covered, slushy, so might still not be ideal conditions up there. So careful if you are hitting the highway up there this morning. If you do see anything else going on, though, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
Well, it is an offer that one municipality hopes will be hard to refuse. Swan Valley West is selling a restaurant for the price of $1, a loonie, $1. For years, the building that once housed the M&M Cafe in the community of Benito, that's right next to the Saskatchewan border, has been vacant. Reeve Bill Gate is with us live on Zoom. Good morning.
Good morning.
So tell me a little bit about how you got this building, first of all, and what your options were for what to do with it.
Well, it came to the municipality through tax sale, which is something that happens when someone doesn't pay their taxes for a couple of years. We end up auctioning off the building to the highest bidder. But in this particular case, there were no bidders on the building. And that happens sometimes. I think for a lot of times tax sales, someone will pay the money they owe the moment before the auction. So a lot of people don't come. But this one we ended up owning. And so now we need to figure out what to do with it next. And we would prefer to sell it to somebody and have them use it.
What was it like in its heyday, that cafe?
It's been there for as long as I've been around, and it was empty for many years, when I was little, and then it became a cafe again and was busy for many years. You'd see lots of people coming and going for coffee. But it was a small town. We've got about 400 people in there. So, certainly the coffee crowd was there, but I remember going there many times for supper. We'd take the family out and we'd go there and have a meal, and it was a nice place.
What do you hope might fill it if somebody takes you up on your offer?
Well, certainly it could be a restaurant. The restaurant equipment is there, but it could be anything else too. We've heard from people who've talked about turning it into a daycare, or perhaps a gentleman yesterday was talking to me about it being an appliance repair shop. So really anything is good. We're looking for somebody to make use of the building, maybe have a couple jobs in Benito to help the community along.
What help does the community need when you think about Benito?
Well, Benito surprisingly has been growing. If you told me 3 years ago that we'd see as much growth in Benito as we have the last few years, I wouldn't have believed you. We've seen a new commercial business start up. We've seen another one do a major expansion, another business just a mile or two out of town. So at the moment, Benito's really short on housing. We've got a lot of people wanting to live there that can't quite make their way in. We have a lot of parents with kids that are having trouble finding those daycare spots. So certainly the daycare thing would top our list if somebody had a proposal for that. But we're willing to look at anything. And I think we'll probably be surprised for what people come up with ideas to do with it.
There sure are a lot of challenges with daycare spots in that part of Manitoba. I know we were west for Communities in Focus, and that was sort of part of the issue. Benito, I was just Googling. This is what Google tells us. 360 people around living in Benito, or does that sound low to you now with the interest?
That's the number from when it was the village of Benito, and then through amalgamation, Benito's a little bit bigger than that now. There's a bit of an outlying area that's outside the original town footprint. So we're probably close to that 400. We're just Friday morning commissioning a brand new splash park. So we've got some beautiful recreation stuff on the go out there. It's a really nice place.
Why do you think that people may be reluctant to invest in this property?
Well, it's always a bit of the unknown, right? Its roof has been leaking for a year or more, so there's a little bit of work to do, which is why we've offered up a report on exactly what we saw wrong with the building, so people go into this with their eyes open. It's not, we're going to sell it to you for $1, but you're probably going to put $30,000 to $50,000 in of renovations to get it ready for whatever you want to do with it. So there's always, some fear of that, and some people, gee, do you put your money into this and become your own boss? Sometimes it's easier to go to work and just have hourly wages from somebody else.
Yeah. I want to loop back to something you said at the beginning. I mean, you could have just demolished this, but you do see it as something that could be community building. How important is that?
It's important to us. We don't want to tear down a single building in Benito, and demolishing it is probably the last thing we want to do. Anything we can save there. It's an older building, but that doesn't mean, it's gone forever. I've certainly used a building that was built in 1908 for many years for what we do, and it's pretty nice. So for us, anytime we lose something in the community, we're not sure we're going to get it back. So we'd prefer to see it reused and made into something rather than tearing it down and having some grass to look at.
If someone in another part of Manitoba is listening, or maybe in a bigger center, what would you say and how would you sell the benefits of running a business in a smaller place?
Well, gosh, everybody's name, right? It doesn't take long until everybody is coming in and gets to know you. We've had some newcomers in Benito. We actually have 2 grocery stores in Benito right now, which is kind of a crazy thing, right? It's been years since we've had that. So the folks that own the one grocery store, he came here from another country, and he stopped in Brandon for a little while. He was in some other cities, and he says there's just no way he'd ever want to go back to that. We've heard that from a lot of folks that come here as newcomers. They say, we always thought we wanted to come to Canada and go to a city, and then we found out that the rural area is so much better than we ever could have imagined.
In terms of the interest you've been getting, the listing is provocative, right? $1. But tell me a little bit about who you've been hearing from.
We've heard from people as far south as Winnipeg, pretty much all over the province have been calling, getting that information package on the building. We haven't seen a lot of applications come in yet, but it's still early. We've got a couple weeks before they're due. But certainly we've talked to people. I talked to a restaurant owner from a different community who said, gee, I'm thinking of maybe moving up there. I talked to someone who's found someone online that they're dating from the area and are looking for a reason to move here. And they're like, well, maybe I could start a business and be closer to my significant other. So there's been a lot of interesting stories.
So love or geography, we'll see what wins the day and who ends up taking this building. Where should people look if they're interested, or is there? Do you guys have a web page? Like, where's the listing living right now?
So if you Google Municipality of Swan Valley West, you'll end up on our webpage. There's a listing there for it, phone number for us, email address. We can get anybody that's interested the whole building inspection report of what's gone on there. We're doing tours as well. So if you're serious about it, we recommend you come up. I'll grab the keys. We'll go take a look for an hour or so, and you can see absolutely everything there is to know about it.
Thanks for joining us this morning, Reeve. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That is Reeve Bilgade of Swan Valley West talking about that used to be restaurant that they have for sale for $1.
Whether you're hanging out or out on the move, stay in the know with CBC Listen. The cost of living with Paul Havershrud goes beyond facts and figures.
Real estate is the 800-pound gorilla of Canada's economy.
And What on Earth with Laura Lynch explores the climate change crisis, problems and solutions.
What happened that made you start to think and see climate change differently?
The cost of living and What on Earth. Available now on CBC Listen.
Well, it's 6 degrees outside in Winnipeg. It is cloudy. My next guest is in his home, and it's only 7 degrees. And that is because the power is still out for a lot of people that live in Snow Lake. Snow Lake is about 700 kilometers north of Winnipeg, but 1,000 people live there. As you've been hearing in the news, because of storms across part of northern Manitoba this week that dumped as much as 35 centimeters of snow. We have a lot of communities that have been calling states of emergency, including in the news this morning, Nisitawayasik Cree Nation. But Snow Lake is also waiting for the power to return. I was talking about that person who had 7 degrees inside their home, and that's the mayor of Snow Lake, Ron Scott. That's where we've reached him this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
So how many people are affected in Snow Lake with power outages as of right now then?
The entire town is without power since about 8:30 on Sunday evening.
Okay, so I know it's been a moving target for when this is coming back up. What do you know this morning?
We had hoped that the power would be back on at 10 o'clock last night, but obviously the situation is more complex for hydro to repair. So we're still waiting, hopefully sometime today. But again, they have to keep moving the restoration time back as there was a main transmission line that was damaged, and repairs to that are taking longer than anticipated.
I know your last post on your public page Mayor, was set around noon, is what you're hearing from Hydro. That's still what you're hoping for?
Yes, we're still hoping for noon that we'll have power back on. But again, we always take that with a big maybe. They've moved the target time for restoration back several times now. So we'll just take that under advisement and see what happens.
What's this like for people? I mean, your folks were, only recently returned from being evacuated from town because of wildfires.
Nature has not been kind to Snow Lake this year at all. We had 2 evacuations this year, I think, for a total of almost 7 weeks due to wildfires, and now this very unusual storm for mid-October going through, and high winds as well as the snow. So we're looking at a lot of down trees, snap trees all over, which is complicating the repair situation for hydro.
What's it look like out your window then? Are you guys covered in ice, or are you walking through snow that's up to your ankles, or what's it actually look like?
Well, we had about 35 meters of snow. It melted a little bit yesterday.
Centimeters, yeah.
But it's pretty crusty, icy snow this morning, and a lot of open area that I can see is due to a lot of snap trees down all over town and in the area.
What's the mood like? I mean, without power, everyone maybe is, I don't know if people are hunkering together or gathering anywhere public to try to stay warm and meet their needs, or what's happening?
I think most people are just hunkering down at home and piling on the clothes and the blankets and so on to stay warm. There's a few that have, say, 7,000 watt generators hooked up to their house, so they've that's enough to run a furnace, but there's not that many that have that. And we had discussed earlier when we were doing our budgets this year to have a large generator installed at the community center and at the town office for just this kind of an emergency. But unfortunately, the forest fire situation delayed everything this year.
So are you going to be doing that, I guess, in the future? Is that going to come back into the discussion to have that big generator there to help?
Oh, absolutely, yes. That's something we've discussed and actually had budgeted for. But unfortunately, nature caught up with us faster than we could get that implemented due to the wildfires this summer.
Who are you most worried about in town? I mean, I'm not sure whether you've got a care home there, what your school situation is like. I'm thinking about the most elderly and the youngest residents of Snow Lake.
Certainly the elderly residents would be our major concern. We have not declared a state of emergency yet, as we didn't anticipate the delays in getting restoration of power back to take this long. But we'll see how it goes. Hopefully we'll get the power back today. But we're certainly asking everyone to, band together, look after each other, look in on those who are elderly, and do your best to stay warm.
I know that in NCN, we've been reporting that with some of their elderly and vulnerable population, they actually move people out of town, right? Because they still have been without power. What would you do? What are you going to have to do to plan just in case power does take longer than today? Where would you move people?
That is a very good question. Certainly, I know many people in town have friends or relatives in Flin Flon or possibly Thompson that they could go and stay with. So we'd certainly put out an advisory that if this is going to take much longer, that maybe getting out of town would be a good idea, and then just go from there.
Yeah. Is school still on, Mayor?
No. The only place that's open right now is a Cello Sled Shed, which is our gas station convenience store, and he's running on generator power, but everything else is closed right now.
Okay. Anything else to pass along to residents if they're listening this morning, or areas of your greatest concern?
Well, we're hoping for the weather report's supposed to be about 9 degrees and sunny this afternoon, so we're hoping for a little bit of heating from the weather. But basically, just be patient, bundle up, layer up the bedding, and we'll get through this. But at the same time, look after each other.
How many layers have you got on in your house this morning? If it's 7 degrees, what are you wearing?
Well, I've got about 3 layers on, from long johns to pajamas to pants to 2 jackets right now, and so I'm just managing to stay warm with a bit of hot coffee from a jet boil.
Yeah, no doubt. So just as a last question, I guess, where should people go if they do need information through the day? I was talking about your Facebook page, but maybe there's a better place to check.
Facebook bulletins are where we're getting most of our information out. Certainly, any email to council or to the Chief Administrative Officer, Alexander Fisher, and we'll try and get information out or respond to inquiries that way.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Stay warm if you can up there. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Take care.
So that is the mayor of Snow Lake. That is Ron Scott. Snow Lake, nearly 700 kilometers north of Winnipeg. Population there about 1,000 people, and they're all out of power. They've yet to call an emergency, a state of emergency, as they have in Nissishawaysik Cree Nation. But they're going to see what happens today. They're hoping for, as you heard the mayor say, warmer temperatures, and hopefully that restoration of power coming later today. Right now, he was inside his home, which is just sitting at 7 degrees. Coverage of Snow Lake actually has been ongoing all week, including Marjorie Dowhouse, who I know was talking to the owner of Wasuko Falls Lodge, about 10K northeast of the Paw, right? About just this, power out there, right?
Yeah, power's out there. We'll have to check in with the owners and see if power's restored there. But if it's not in Snow Lake, and she was saying she expects that that Snow Lake's probably going to get power restored first because her business is out of town. But yeah, snow up there, and she said that she's so thankful for the hydro workers who spent the long weekend trying to
do this.
Power.
It's hitting a lot of people. So we'll follow this through the day here on CBC. Marjorie, of course, will be the next one to pick it up on Radio Noon. You've popped in, though, not to talk about some of those follows, but to tell us what's on your call-in.
Yeah, well, I see you have a cup of, is that coffee sitting there beside you, Marcy?
Yes, I double made coffee because I forgot I made it, and then I went and got coffee.
Yeah.
I have a lot of it. I like coffee.
Do you like, is the price of coffee going to affect how much you're going to drink?
Yes, I'm looking for sales currently with the rest of the people, right?
Yeah, as we know, price of coffee is going up. Tim Hortons, after so many years, raising the price of coffee. So we're asking you today, is the price of coffee going to affect how much coffee you're going to consume? Are you going to consume it differently? We're going to have a supply chain expert telling us why we're seeing prices going up and how it might affect consumers and business owners coming up. So if you want to share with us your thoughts on the price of coffee, give us a call after 12:30 today on Radio Noon.
All right. Thanks a lot, Marge.
Thanks, Marcy.
People will weigh in for sure. It is something that a lot of people say, they give up a lot of things before their coffee. So between 12:30 and 1 is the call-in on Radio Noon with host Marjorie Dowhouse right here on CBC. Well, I just want to mention some thank yous here for the program this morning. Our associate producers who worked on the program, Chidi Akuma, working on the show. Our community reporter, Shanley Vidal, working on the program today. Also from our news department, Joni Nicolo and Heather Wells. Big thanks to them. And thanks to our live team, Corey Funk, Abby Adiemi, and Darren Marash in our control room. Our senior producer of audio at CBC Manitoba is Leif Larson, and our show's producer of current affairs is Nellie Gonzalez. So big thanks to everyone who worked on the program. As we head into our last news time of the morning show here, coming up at 8:30, I just want to remind you in traffic that Sherbrooke is still closed between Elgin and Alexander because of that very early morning fire. So that's been throughout the last couple hours here. And then also north, we were just talking about the power outages. So you can imagine the storm also dumped snow all over the roads. We don't have closed highways this morning, but we may have snow-covered and slippery conditions, or we do have, as we've been looking at the maps. It is late in the drive, but if you want to call Corey with any updates, please do. The commuter line is 788-3093. And your CBC Winnipeg News is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 8:30. It's 6 degrees. We're going to be cloudy today, and we warm back up above seasonal. The normal high this time of year is 10. Today we're aiming for 12. And while we have clouds today, we're expecting some showers overnight. So most of the day, though, will be dry. A Northern Manitoba First Nation has declared a state of emergency. Nisitchewayasik Cree Nation has been without heat or electricity since this past weekend's snowstorm. Deputy Chief Marcel Moody says power went out early Sunday and it was still out as of last night.
A lot of people in our community don't have any wood stoves. So there's no heat in their houses because only one source of heat, that's from the furnaces, and when the power goes off, there's absolutely no alternative, to heat their homes.
Moody says the community hopes to get assistance from the federal government and the Canadian Red Cross. He says people weren't prepared for such an extended outage and are scrambling to get supplies. About 60 elders have been bused to hotels in Thompson. Hydro's outage map estimates power should be restored to Nisitchewayasik around 8 tonight. Winnipeg police are warning people to be careful when meeting up with strangers to buy or sell anything through online sites. A man was shot and robbed over the weekend while meeting up with someone through an online sales platform. It happened on Maryland. Police say the victim's injuries are life-altering. CBC asked Winnipeggers what safety measures they take when they try to make or save a buck online. Here's Carly Grenier.
When I'm picking up, I just usually tell someone where I'm going, or I have someone on the phone if I'm by myself, or I bring someone with me. I don't tell people my address until the day or a few hours before pickup. Don't e-transfer. If it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Police encourage buyers and sellers to use their designated buy and sell exchange zones, which are located at 4 police stations around the city. Meanwhile, investigators are still trying to identify the shooter. We have his photo up on our website. If you know anything about him, call police or Crime Stoppers. An early morning fire has closed Sherbrooke Street. Police say fire in a 2-story house started around 4 this morning. No one's been hurt, but firefighters remain on the scene. Sherbrooke closed in both directions between Elgin and Alexander. The federal government has increased the number of newcomers to Manitoba under the provincial nominee program. Ottawa initially cut back on the number of skilled workers this province could bring into Canada this year. Manitoba was only allotted 4,800 under the nominee program. It was part of an effort to reduce pressure on Canada's housing stock. The federal government later relented, allowing Manitoba to bring in an additional 1,500 workers. Health Minister Uzoma Eseguera says Manitoba needs that additional labor.
We are not all the same. We do need a unique approach, a tailored approach, and our Minister of Immigration has been doing a great job advocating and working with Canada to prioritize Manitoba's voice in this conversation.
Eseguera says some of the skilled workers now coming to this province will work in healthcare. A Winnipeg man's been handed a 4-month sentence for threatening a Crown lawyer. Richard Dupuis told the prosecutor he was going to, quote, effing smack her during a bail hearing in June. He pleaded guilty to several charges last week, including intimidation of a justice system participant. The statement read in court, the prosecutor saying, public officials need to feel safe. Dupuis apologized, a judge telling him those threats cannot be tolerated, adding his sentence needed to denounce that kind of behavior. After some lean years, the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra is enjoying a bit of breathing room. The WSO reports an operating surplus of more than $140,000 for the 2024-25 fiscal year. It's the first surplus since the COVID-19 pandemic took a huge bite out of ticket sales. The organization has also cut its accumulated deficit by more than half. A sigh of relief from WSO Executive Director Angela Birdsell.
Not to say we're still not without some challenges going forward, but it's not nearly the magnitude of challenge that we faced in this past year. So it's nice to be able to breathe a little bit and sleep a little bit better.
Birdsell says WSO ticket sales have reached 81% of pre-pandemic levels. You can find more news updated throughout your day. Just head to cbc.ca/Manitoba.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
All right, last look at the commute. Corey.
Up north, Highway 391, from Thompson Lynn Lake, might be snow covered for you. So just heads up on the highways around there as well. So we heard in the news, Sherbrooke between Elgin and Alexander closed both ways due to a fire.
All right, thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
And Abby, what do we know?
Not much of sunshine for the south today. It's going to be more like cloudy conditions. Sunshine we will see in the northern part. Winnipeg right now 6. Most of the regions are down south warming up to 12 degrees. The northern areas will stay cool. We're seeing temperatures actually right now between 0 and -2, and the highs for that part of the province would get close to 7 degrees today. But Winnipeg, we're just at 6 degrees and topping out at 12 or 11 degrees later.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Well, tomorrow we have a community studio, Corey Funk. We're going to be at Stella's.
Yes, we sure will. And it's right by Kenaston.
Yep, Grant and Kenaston. We are there because we're talking about the widening of Kenaston. You have a whole bunch of people you've been talking to. You joined a group on Facebook, I think.
Joined a group on Facebook. There's a lot of folks concerned about what it could mean for them who live in and around Kenaston, and we're going to be chatting with them. Some people like it, some people don't.
The city likes it. They want to put shovels in the ground by 2027. They've costed it out. Those numbers, though, have moved a number of times. The mayor will be on the show. Some residents will be on the show. We're going to hear from commuters. Some people love this. If you're driving from the south, you know how busy it gets. Others say it might be necessary to replace the bridge spans and the sewers, but is it necessary to expropriate their homes? We're going to talk to one person with that point of view as well. So we have a full live show tomorrow all about the widening of Kenaston. If you want to weigh in, join us at the Stella's Grant at Kenaston, or you can call 788-3205. We'll talk to you tomorrow with that special show. Take care. Be well. Have a good day, everyone.